I am a little nervous because I've been building up a whole lot of hype in myself for today, so I'm hoping I'm not going to be... I haven't set myself up for disappointment, I hope is what I'm saying. I don't think I have, but I've also been thinking a lot about how this kind of has to wrap up. Whenever we come up to the climax, as you do, we have to look at, like, the open threads in the narrative. We have to see what do we think is going to be finished up soon. What do we think is setting up the narrative in the next stretch of games? So they have to do two things. They have to, one, let's talk about this later. In any case, hey, we're going to be doing all of the, well, okay, we're going to be doing like the first half, if you will, of all the end of 2.55 long cutscenes. I'll be breaking them down as we go, and we'll be talking about them the entire time. And I'm not hurrying through anything. So if I've got anything to say, we're going to say it. If there's something to break down, we're going to break it down. So we're going to be here a while. I'm going to break up half of it today. Half of it will be done on Saturday after the... I can't remember what it's called. But Rihanna has commandeered me to do an event that's going this Saturday. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to come in and finish the 2.55 patches. We're going to go on my dick journey together. All right, in any case, let's play some video games. I'm ready to go. Oh, The Rising, that's it, yes. The Rising, that's what we're doing. Yep. Rian, am I playing the first Rising video on stream and then going to do the Rising, or am I watching the Rising video on my own and then going to do the regular one, the current one on stream? Which way am I doing that? All right, let's play some video games. All right, good deal. So for everybody's benefit, if you want a place to talk about stuff that's going on tonight, if you want to talk about my reactions, if you want to talk about, you know, whether Mico's predictions are right or not, or oh my god, what is, you know, any of that stuff, I'm going to ask you keep it out of Twitch chat, because I see Twitch chat. And any little bit of information you give me, I can use as part of my predictions. It is more fun, I think, for you and for me when I don't know shit. Because then I can only use what is presented to me. No, what is presented to me by the narrative. And I can only break down what is presented by the narrative. The smallest little clues or hints, you'd be surprised how much information you can give me. In a comment you think is vague or innocuous, I'm smarter than that. If you have anything that would make your comment funny is going to make it relevant. Anything that is relevant is going to make it something I can use against the narrative in order to break it down in that sense. So there is a channel on the Discord. Go into the Final Fantasy chat, scroll up a bit. In fact, somebody might want to pin it. There is a thread in the Final Fantasy chat that is for people to be able to talk about spoilers in a way that I will not see them. Yeah, and what we have is a Command S. We have Command S, which I'm going to do there. The mods can use this, and select other users can do Command S, and that scrolls my chat. My Twitch chat is purged. Even if you were to use the purge command, me as the broadcaster, I would still see the messages. So this is the only way to actually block out my chat. Now, I don't suspect we're going to get... any spoilers, but I mean, it's better for you to just not talk about it than to risk telling me something that nobody else wants me to know. No one's gonna spoil my experience by spoiling. It doesn't matter to me, because whether it's predictive or not recursive, what's the word? Retrograde analysis, I suppose. Either way, I'm having my fun. If there is a special joy in being able to analyze something that you haven't seen before, though, so that is nice. The only experience you're going to be spoiling is the people who want to see this unadulterated, okay? So what I suspect probably is the best thing is let's just put it in emote-only mode. Let's just go ahead and do it. I think even just now, I think for tonight's stream, let's just do emote only. If you want to chat, go to the Discord, go into the thread in Final Fantasy chat, and there you can talk. In fact, I might just even not look at chat tonight at all. There's a possibility that that's probably the best thing for me to do. Okay. So, here is, can I do that? Hold on. I can. It is done. There we go. Enjoy your emotes. Enjoy your emotes. Okay. Perfect. So, okay, I need to go to the Rising Stones. I'm nowhere near it. So let's head over to more... Do I have music? Or is this place just boring? It's just boring. Okay, well, that's what we're going to do. Let me talk about a couple things, because I've been thinking about the fact that I know this is a finale to everything that is not Heavensward. This has to be the actual finale to ARR. Anything that is not carrying into Heavensward needs to be wrapped up now. And what that means is we need to look for climaxes that are due, and we need to then sift through all of the threads we have in our story. And these are the different subplots that are going on that will eventually come together at one time, which is usually the climax, which I imagine is going to happen here. And I want to review kind of what we have on the table so I can tell you what I think is going to happen with each of these plots. And I also want to talk about the nature of our predictive analysis here, because every time we kind of dig into this, I want to make sure that the tone is accurate, because my goal in doing these predictions is not to be like, I was smarter than the writers, I figured it out before the big twist. It's none of those things. It is to say we have been given a breadcrumb trail. I always say that wrong. Don't tease me. The writers leave us a breadcrumb trail to follow through foreshadowing, through the conventions of writing, which are the patterns that we should expect to see as expert writers. Somebody who's very new to writing will not catch up, will not keep up with that trail. They won't see the conventions as well as we will. And these are patterns of things that we should expect to see, that we've seen over and over again. They're not quite cliches. However, they are patterns. There are some expectations we have. And knowing what those conventions are can help inform what we think might happen. And we're not looking at, this is what I think is going to happen. Very, very rarely do we do that. More often than not, we're looking at almost percentages, a pie chart, if you will, of different outcomes based on what we're looking at the moment. And every sliver of that pie is going to be, a different outcome that we have, and some of them are going to be very thin. It's very unlikely this will happen. It's more likely this will happen. And that's the language I'm going to use to break it down. We're really talking about likelihoods. We're talking about... what's the word? Starts with a P. Something to do with statistics. Probabilities. We're talking about probabilities. And we will sometimes attribute a value to different outcomes. I want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. I think this is a better writing than that. This is a better outcome than that one, as far as like the value of the writing, of the experience itself. I'm going in armed with a couple predispositions. And those are that whatever I'm about to see is well done. That does inform my analysis. People like this. That doesn't necessarily mean the outcome is good, but that does mean that it's memorable and it's cathartic. That's what that means. So I am expecting those things. It is well designed, it is cathartic, it is memorable. That informs my analysis. Remember when I said anything you say can be used against the narrative? The very fact that you want to see it, the very fact that you're excited about it, tells me something. And when we put all this stuff together, it's going to influence my predictions in that way. So let's get a little idea of some of the stories that are on the board right now. Let's go find somewhere comfy. And then you and I are going to have a big old review session of what I remember is happening right now. Here we go. Yep, we have a screen box in the Discord for anybody who does want to chat, because Twitch chat right now is set to emote only. There we go. Okay. Leandri, the camera's the other way. Leandri? Hey, bitch. No, I mean, yes, very cute, but you need to look at the camera when you do that. Oh, you can't help yourself. Okay, anyway. Oh, there she is. Okay, she just wants to be off the camera. Fucking typical cat. Okay, listen. This is what we're going to go through. Every time I say listen now, I'm like, oh, listen. Oh, we got to get that. We got to get that soundbite on there. Okay. Here are some threads that I know we are dealing with. The biggest one that I think has to be resolved. There are two really big, like, they're not even threads, they're chords. The two biggest narrative threads I see going on, the two biggest subplots. And it's not hard to call them subplots. It's maybe even like co-plots. And Kat and Fern as the mods, obviously I'd trust you to be able to say things to me. If I'm forgetting a subplot, if I go through... Hello, Kat. If I go through this and there's a thing I'm missing, because it's been a minute, you know? If there's a subplot that I'm missing, feel free to tell me, hey, remember this is happening as well. That's not going to bother me. In fact, it will make my analysis better, because if I'm forgetting something, then that's material I don't have to use. The fucking minion running around is going to distract me. All right. So the biggest things I think we need to see wrapped up tonight is the political upheaval in Ul'dah. We have a lot of unresolved tension with the little Alamegans, or the Alamegans, versus the natives of Ul'dah. We also, at the same time, have Nanamo, Sultana Nanamo, wanting to, I think that's her name. The Sultana wants to step down and create a democracy. Excellent choice. Unfortunately, it's really fucking messy. The reality of trying to instill a democracy is that it goes through this bell curve, if you will. It starts out as being very uncontrolled, and you think that the y-axis there is control or stability, and validity. It's all of those things. You could say that the value of it, you know, is that line, and then the X line is time. So in the very early phases, it's the bell curve. In the very early phases, it's very unstable because it's still infant. There is so much that has to be organized, and so quickly. There she is. So much has to be organized so quick. Don't look at me, bitch. So much has to be organized and so quickly for things to stabilize that it can be a very tumultuous time, a very uncertain time. But as those things start to get figured out and democracy becomes a well-oiled machine, things start to run very smoothly. It becomes a very stable government. They've gone through years or decades or even centuries of this routine at this point. As long as the culture holds strong, that is pro-democracy and not lip service, but actually participating, the democracy holds strong. Over time, though, people get jaded, people stop participating, people get comfortable in the status quo. So they stop maintaining that positive status quo. So it starts to crumble. It falls to corruption. It falls to all those other wonderful things that we're seeing now in the real world, in our actual democracy in the real world. And so there's a bell curve, and eventually it gets back to being unstable again. And at that point, the government goes through revolution of some kind. And this is what we see over and over again. Every empire has gone through the same bubble. Every democracy that we've seen rise and fall, the Greek democracy did the exact same thing. The first documented democracy went through the exact same thing. If you look at Athens, the rise and fall of Athens, you'll see that. And we're right on track here in America, so, you know, we're seeing it play out again. I don't see there being any reason, because art imitates life, and life, to an extent, imitates art in response. You've surely heard of that before, but what I'm expecting to see is that there is going to be probably some kind of power grab by some. I would expect to be, and I don't throw this word around, some totalitarian, authoritarian, possibly even as far as fascist power, that when Nanamo steps down in that very early phase of the democracy being set up, that's going to be a big theater of battle. Political and philosophical battle is going to happen there. And I really see Ravan being a big and possibly the first and last line of defense, and may even become the de facto leader, which I'm going to talk about why that would be a really good thing narratively and symbolically later. But I think that he's going to be ultimately the arbiter of justice and sort of the guy that everything leans upon. I mean, think about the George Washington in the Revolutionary War of America, in the sense that he is the controller of the military, which gives him a lot of power, which gives him a lot of real power, because your policy doesn't mean shit if you can't back it up. And that's why democracy ultimately falls apart, is that the enforcement fails to maintain the policy because the policy is usually corrupt and the people no longer support it. Now, what I think is going to happen is we end up getting that kind of upheaval. I wouldn't be surprised to see if whatever the fucker Lalafell is, can't remember his name. What I think is going to happen there is either that Lalafell is going to have a faction of, he's going to want to take over, and they're going to want to be the leader, and it may even pose itself as a democratic election. But it's going to be one of a very corrupt versus a very pure leader. I can't. Finally, she's decided to join us. Now, Teleji Adeleji is a good boy. Lolorito. Yes, he's the bad boy, I think. I'm pretty sure. Unless it's going to be a character we haven't been introduced to, which I would not be interested in. I would not like that. So when we talk about these outcomes, you know, that's a path I think we could go down with that, and I would enjoy seeing that. The reason I think that ultimately we're going to see a democratic body led by Raoban, I imagine that's how it's going to resolve itself, is the reason it's good is because he is Alamigan. It would symbolically be the best kind of outcome that shows a unification of the populations. It will lead to the little Alamegans being welcomed into the city and resources made to perhaps assimilate, but to bring them into the fold. I think that having a democracy works well when it has a lot of bodies, participant bodies. What I mean by that is that there needs to be a strong labor force, there needs to be a strong middle class, and there doesn't need to be poor people, but there does need to be a robust worker force. The people who are maybe not interested in being rich, but in just being satisfied with their work. We start to look at a situation where in Ul'dah it becomes very beneficial for them to bring the Alamegans in. But socially, the climate is the opposite, which is resource guarding, what's called resource guarding, where the established population of Ul'dah does not want to share space, does not want to share what they believe to be limited resources with another population. They're going to see it as having too many mouths to feed. This is how a lot of people in the real world act about immigration. That any amount of immigration, any amount of asylum given to refugees is, my resources are now being taken from me in order to give it to somebody else. When the reality is that if there is a limit on any of our resources, it's because of misappropriation. There is plenty to go around for everybody, but 90% of the time what we see is the resources we should have plenty of are being wasted. Think about the food scarcity in America, where we throw food away by the ton. We throw it away. We have laws against sharing food. Restaurants that don't sell their food through the day throw it away in the garbage, and anybody caught taking that food is charged with theft. We have laws protecting trash instead of people. But it's all because of this sense of resource guarding, which is a fallacy in itself. So I imagine we're going to see kind of those pitfalls going on with Ul'dah versus the Alamegan refugees. But I think we're going to see it resolved ultimately with Raoban being on top. I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know if that's just going to be a matter of these cutscenes. If it's going to be done here, I don't know. But I do see that as kind of the trajectory. If I was writing it, that's probably the direction I would take it. Okay, so then we have another big one that needs to be talked about, and that is what the hell's going on with the Crystal Braves. I have been saying for a long time that two things. The biggest thing I've been talking about this entire time is that Alfino needs to be brought down. And And I really mean that. I think that his whole character is based on the principle of hubris. He is too young, too arrogant. He does not yet understand his limits, but he encounters them frequently. And we've talked about when he gets into any diplomatic setting, he flops. And when he flops, he ends up really embarrassing himself. But he needs to be brought low. Here's the problem with that. If he's brought low at a midpoint climax, we have a lot of room for character development, a redemption arc. If it's at the climax, you don't have time for a redemption arc. Typically, whatever failure happens is absolute. And while I don't think they're gonna kill Alfino, what I think is probably going to happen is that him being brought low is going to be done through collateral damage. And this is the route that a lot of writers will go down when they have a character needs to be brought low, their hubris needs to be atoned for, is they will actually punish somebody close to that character. Or there will be collateral damage. Something goes very wrong, but they survive. However, the love of their life ends up dead in the process. Their mentor dies in the process. Somebody around them, precious to them, dies as a result of their actions. And at that point, they have to begin a journey of atonement or redemption. And this is how that usually plays out. Now, there are a few things that could happen. And what I suspect may happen is that either Alfino is going to be completely politically debased, ostracized. He could become a villain, even. There's the possibility. I don't necessarily think any of these things are likely, but they are possible. Something has to break very soon. I think it's going to happen here. We have seen there be the machinations of betrayal in amongst the Crystal Braves. I have a suspicion of who's to blame, but I also feel like I might be getting led by the nose. Whenever there's a mystery, writers love to have red herrings. They'll show you a light over here that's dim enough for you to think it might be the secret, and then you look over here, and then wham, here comes the train from the right side you didn't see coming. Whacks you with the steel chair and then keeps going. They love to do that, the blindside twist. But they have to have a red herring for that to work, because they have to have you thinking, oh, this is what's going to happen, because when you have an expectation, that expectation being defied is the twist. What they call subverting expectations, that's literally what they mean. We're going to make you expect this, then we're going to actually do this over here, and you're not going to see it coming, and that's why it's going to surprise you, and hopefully be fun, right? Do I think my expectations are going to be subverted? I would give it about a 70% chance that I'm wrong. Part of me hopes I am, because it was very easy to catch on to what I think is happening here. You have to go in with this expectation that if I was shown this, it's not true. You ultimately just have to have that opinion. We were shown Taleji Adeleji being a very bad boy. Kind of. We were shown an implication that he's a bad boy. We have not seen him be a bad boy. So we don't know. Right? So we don't actually know. And whatever we see is not always the truth. And especially if it's a midpoint in the story, we should expect that someone is subverting our expectations. And it's the same way that you have, like, I'm tricking you, but you're tricking me. But then I'm tricking you again because I know you're tricking me. But then you know, so you're tricking me as well. And you get like these layers of back and forth of who's actually on top here. And that can happen. It's sort of a spiral. If the author gets too many layers up where they're anticipating you following them the whole way, often they'll lose their readers along the way. People will just go, I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore, and then they'll give up. But if they go too shallow, if they don't do enough layers, then someone like me is going to come in and be like, oh, it's over? Okay. And that can happen too. Often that's what happens, because when you're dealing with a mass audience who are not expert readers, and this is not to shit on them, as the hoi polloi, but most people are casual consumers. They are not experts in reading. They don't have professional training or a whole lot of experience. What they enjoy often is unplugging their brain. The opposite of what I do. What they need is a great story that maybe has one layer of twist. Maybe one layer of twist. I mean, you'll hear it in the language. That twist was great. Usually it's one twist. That's it. And it's a big twist. This is the reason M. Night Shyamalan is famous, despite being a terrible writer as far as I'm concerned, is that he'll have one big twist and people find that fun. There's nothing wrong with that. What I look for, though, is more layers than that. I want more nuance to it. And I think these stories that are really loved, I mean, more than enjoyed, they're really fucking loved, is that they will have those 2 or 3 layers and they'll hit that sweet spot of enough depth that we get tricked, but not so much that we get left behind. And I think Final Fantasy is very good at doing that at times. Certain games in the past were not very good at doing it, but it is a big part of what makes a Final Fantasy game good, is usually there are like 3 phases. And a lot of Japanese writing does this in games, I'm noticing, especially in video games, Japanese video games, and maybe a lot of Japanese literature, which I haven't read. But when we see these Japanese games being ported to English and we see their plot structures laid out, they're very different than what we see in the West. And what I'm seeing really commonly is we have the sort of and I think I've talked with Fern about this specifically. There's a sort of initial plot that is a very mundane, typical ground level, street level problem that's going on. Let's think about Persona 5. This Persona 5 problem is that I need to stay out of juvie. Okay, I need to establish myself on the straight and narrow, and I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a job at my uncle's cafe, I'm going to do these things. And then we discover the second layer. The second layer is this paranormal thing starts happening, and we're going to go be the good guy. We're going to go kind of start solving local problems using this power. Their gym teacher, their different other people in the community who are evil, they're just kind of going and doing it. They don't really have a big mission yet. Their big mission is whatever that small job is at the time, and they get kind of into a routine with it, right? So there's that second layer that happens in Persona 5. That third layer is when it all comes back together again, and there's a singular focus. At the very beginning, there was a singular focus. Around the midpoint, it broadens out. There's a lot of individual foci that need to be paid attention to, but usually in a sequence. And then at the end, at some point, there's an inflection where we now are zeroed in on the bigger picture. We finally see the bigger picture. And this is where we start to look at, okay, we're going to go punch God now. And in almost every Japanese story I've seen that's been translated over, there's a go punch God phase. And which I think is great, because what other motive could be more impressive than that, you know? We've gotten so strong, let's just go deck God in the mouth. With American plots or with Western plots, you typically see that the story gets resolved at the end of that second phase. Japanese games tend to go to that third phase with the ultimate, the supernatural, the beyond reality. We'll just call it beyond reality. Even though in Persona 5 that second phase is beyond reality, but we can accept it as reality because it works within the world. But then there's that ultimate tier that goes up above it, which I think is really interesting. What I'm expecting to happen here is that what we see is that first layer. What we imagine will happen is that second layer. And then what is going to ultimately be happening is that big picture. It's hard for us as the reader to always see what that big picture is going to be before it's shown to us, because we can always imagine infinitely more complex than what we're seeing right now. But it's hard to know where the writing is going to actually go with that. At what point is the writing going to say, this is the pinnacle? We can imagine beyond that potentially. In the case of Punching God, it's hard to imagine what greater height we could go to there as far as like the stakes. But in here, we're looking at it at the idea of there being this progression of concept blooming out and becoming more complicated and more complex as it goes on. So the development of the politics among the Scions is what I really want to zero in on, knowing that. We have the character Alfino, who has been pushing for his own agenda, his own status, his own ideals. He wants to run parallel to the Scions, never being part of it, but never being so distant that he is seen as ultimately a separate entity. He wants to be attached in the sense that he could use them as shelter, but separate from them in the sense that he has autonomy. He wants the best of both worlds. whenever we see that kind of scenario, ultimately, one or both has to be lost, usually both. Somebody who tries to balance the best of both worlds ends up taken out of both of them. We also have a character who is defined by their hubris and arrogance. And there's a difference between the two. Hubris and arrogance. He has both of these. Any character that has one of them needs to be brought low. To have two of them, especially because I think we're supposed to not like him. And it's very rare, I think, for there to be a character who's deliberately made to be unlikable, who is not an antagonist. This is one of those cases where I genuinely suspect that we are supposed to be tired of Alphino. I would have a hard time believing that he was written to be lovable, given what we've seen him do so far. I tried really hard to like him, and even I ran out of patience. And it took until kind of only recently in the story for me to just be like, every time this kid shows up in the cutscene, I'm very angry. Because he ruins it. He ruins every scene he's in. I'm just so fucking sick of him. So what needs to happen is that he has to have a reckoning with those personality traits that have made him unlikable. The thing is, though, this is where I think the expectations are going to be subverted. We are going to want something bad to happen to Alphino, and I've talked about this before, but I want to review it. We are going to want something bad to happen to Alphino, and I'm definitely there. I need him brought low because I'm tired of freaking Leandri. I'm tired of him being as he is now. So he needs to be brought low. Here's the thing, though. By wanting him brought low, the writers are going to go, oh, I'm going to give you what you asked for. And then he's going to be brought so low that we are going to then be made to feel guilty about what happens to him. And he's going to lay there bleeding and be like, I just had the best intentions, and then die. And then we are supposed to feel bad about that because we wished it upon him. It's a great way to include the reader in the climax by setting us up to be the bad guys ourselves. Which I love when they do that. It's very rare that they're courageous enough to do that because it's a big risk, right? If it doesn't pay off, it just looks like, oh, we killed him for no reason. But I also suspect, and this is where my conflict is, can we kill Alphino yet? Can we kill Alphino? Can we do it? I have some meta reasons why I think that can't happen. I think Alphino has to survive. For a couple reasons. One, if we did the Trials of Bahamut after this cutscene sequence, Alphino would just be back from the dead in order to do those cutscenes. Ergo, he can't die. Because we can't bring him back from the dead just to join us in some cutscenes. And this is why I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And you'll remember, the moment he showed up in the Coils of Bahamut cutscenes, I got frustrated with him. I got very frustrated with him. And it's because, purely, it implies that he survives everything else. If you see a character from A pop up in B, but there's no telling what order they're in, they can't be killed in A because they have to show up in B. They can't be killed in B because they have to show up in A. Which means that I think we're going to end up in a situation where Alphino's actions, as I've said often happens in this situation, he will be brought low by guilt when something he does gets somebody else killed. Here's the other problem. The other person I think would be most impactful to die and make him have a change of heart would be Alice. Two things. She can't die because she's in the Coil of Bahamut as well. Yeah, that's right. But also, she has so much left to do in the narrative that killing her now would seem like a massive waste of everything we've built up with her during the Coils. But because I'm sure that canonically, the order of operations here is that you finish 2.55 and then the Coils come out. I'm pretty sure that's how that was released. So we can guarantee that Alice and Alphino are okay. What we can't guarantee is everybody else, because I ain't seen them outside of this, right? So everyone else is free game. We have already had a sort of extinction event happen in the Scions. I would doubt, because when you have the same climactic action happen again, especially to the same people, it has so little impact the second time. If you have a character have a heart attack and it's like really harrowing, the second time they have a heart attack in that narrative, you're like, oh no, like that's definitely not a good thing, but maybe this is the one that kills him, but if not, we're gonna keep going. And usually you can see that happen. It's less climactic. Do I think there's going to be another extinction level event happening to the Scions? It's possible. At the same time, I have another meta reason why I think that's not going to happen. We have already done a relocation arc. We've already made that big relocation. I don't think we're going to do it again. Because again, it's a story we have already told. The final coil of Bahamut was 2.4. That is good information. Thank you, Fern. That is good information. So potentially Alice could die, but it just, to me, doesn't make sense that... It doesn't make sense that they would allow for a scenario in... Well, no, because if it happened before, it could happen. Alice and Alphino are back on the table. Oh no, they're back on the chopping block. Because all that really matters in the history, if you have a cutscene that happens in position 1 chronologically, position 2 that always happens after it can be where one of those characters dies, because our ability to go back to 1 and see it again does not mean that the thing that happens here can't happen. Only when you have that chronological flexibility, where both are valid positions. That's the only time where if you see them in one place, you know they have to survive the other. But if there's an established timeline in which everything we've seen from Alice happens before what we're about to do, then there's a possibility. But here's another meta reason why I don't think that's going to happen. Alice is safe again. Hallelujah. And I think to some extent, I think Alphino is also safe still. So we're just going to go back to where we were. And here's why. Rion would not let me do this cutscene if there was emotional baggage attached to Alice or Alphino based in the coils. We would have had to have seen that final resolution cutscene that happens after killing Bahamut. Whatever happens there, that climax would have to have been reached before we did this. So like I said, anything can be used against the narrative. So I think that both of them are off the chopping block again. They get to live another day. So we'll see. There are a couple, and we're going to get to it eventually. But again, I'm taking my time here because there's a lot to work through. And anytime we approach a climax, I really want to make sure that everything is on the table. So we have the betrayal among the Crystal Braves. We've been kind of led to think that the main guy and his Lalafell underling are probably responsible for it. We know 100% that there is a dedicated conspiracy happening. We know it's a conspiracy now. We know somebody is doing something, right? So it's not all in our head. But we've been led to kind of anticipate who the villains are, which means it's almost certainly not them. But it could be. It could be just that the depth of that foreshadowing just was kind of shallow, which isn't always a problem. I mean, we've seen suspicious behavior from them, but I don't think it's been called suspicious behavior. Like, it hasn't been pointed out that it's suspicious. We haven't really seen them be suspicious, but some of their dialogue hasn't lined up with what we're seeing. And the conventions of writing and how these sort of murder mysteries and other criminal dramas play out is that you're looking for the route in which the crime could be committed as being the likely route in which it was committed. And so there have been details that both Lalafell looks like he might have been covering in order to bury evidence. And the main guy has been suspiciously absent at certain times and also covered for another lie. So we're looking for the people who are concealing the conspiracy as being conspirators. It's very simple. And we've seen the both of them doing that action, that behavior of concealing the conspiracy. Now, so I suspect those two, I don't know if my expectations are going to be subverted there. I don't necessarily see it coming. I don't see a reason that they would, but I don't think it's beyond them to do it. I don't think it's going to be a problem either way in both cases. I think it's going to be great writing. I actually kind of hope that my expectations don't get subverted here. I hope it is those two. I really do. Because it seems like it would be an unnecessary twist to then insert somebody else as being the culprit, because they would have to explain how the fuck they did it. Anytime that you have to explain how something was done, I think it's a failure of foreshadowing. I think it's a failure of establishing that along the way as something we should have been able to know or could have known up until that point. If your climax is a complete surprise to us, it's probably a failure of foreshadowing. It's actually a very symptom of ineffective writing or lazy writing. This is the reason I don't like M. Night Shyamalan. Most of the time, his twist is just like, oh, fucking of course, you know? Like in Signs, where the girl's very obscure habit of leaving glasses of water everywhere, this very obscure personality trait ends up being the very thing that saves them. Like, it's so fucking... Like, the odds of that happening are so slim that it feels like a Deus Ex Machina. It feels cheap. And in that moment, it's just fucking bizarre. And it opens up plot holes rather than leaving it closed. Like, why the fuck are they... Why are they coming to Earth if they hate water? It's like us going to Venus being like, we're going to find the one place that's not hot around here. What the fuck is your problem? You're stupid. So anyway, it's that kind of writing that bothers me. Or in the case of Game of Thrones, the incredibly incompetent writers who, as soon as George R.R. Martin's material ran out, they started fucking everything up, showing that they were actually drooling imbeciles because they have no idea how to write. And they took great setup and then spiked it on their own side of the net. Fucking idiots. They've said this as much in interviews. They've outed themselves as complete imbeciles by saying, well, we did that because we wanted to subvert expectations. Sometimes when I will read like a student's writing and they will capitalize every letter. And it's because at some point they were told that when you capitalize something, it makes it formal. And if they want to write formally, what they have taught themselves to do, erroneously, is to capitalize every letter because it makes their writing more formal, right? It's a misappropriation of the concept. And the same thing happens with writers who are inexperienced and frankly incompetent. Knowing that subverting the reader's expectations is a good, cool thing to do when you can do it. And it can make a story really memorable, and it can even make a second viewing phenomenal and even better than the first, because then you see all the little signs you missed along the way that were like, oh fuck, how did I not see that, you know? And that's a great experience. That's why I always recommend for students, read it twice. I always recommend for people who love their movie, watch it multiple times. Every time you read it, every time you see it, you're going to see things you missed the first time, and there's going to be this wonderful little, you're going to get like this little pop of serotonin in there when you notice something you didn't see before, because it's very much like following a breadcrumb trail and getting little bits of joy, like when you solve a math problem that you had struggled with, or the climax of that story being so great, you get little bits of memory of that, and seeing how it all came together, there's a building of appreciation for the writing. So when you get writers like that are just talking about, well, you wanted to subvert expectations, thinking that just equals good, they're fucking idiots. That's not how that works at all. You have to subvert expectations with a good setup. Otherwise, it just ends up being a cheap twist that nobody saw coming and nobody cares about. It just rips out all of the cathartic payout that would have been there otherwise. And this happened a lot. I mean, you think of any of the worst moments of Game of Thrones, the writers literally just wanted to subvert your expectations for no reason other than to subvert them. And it's really unfortunate. So I hope that we don't get an unnecessary, and this is why I said it's a balancing act, the layers of twists or subversions, if you will. If there are too many of them, they'll leave us behind, because there's going to be this sweet spot of, I could see it coming if I watched this again, or I did see it coming if I was really paying attention. That's it. That's the level. So with this Crystal Braves deception thing, we've not had those two members pointed out, but I think you have to look a little bit beneath the surface to suspect them specifically. So I would hope that I've been rewarded for my super sleuthing and that they are the enemy. If we end up getting into a situation where there's somebody else who's to blame for all of this, we're going to have to go through and explain how that happened. Which, like I said, I think it's going to be bad writing, because if you have to go through and give us exposition in the climax, that's back writing. That is bad. That is almost always bad writing. Back writing in the middle of your climax is a mistake. So I suspect it is going to be those two specifically. The reason they're doing it is probably that they've been either bought off or they're racist or both. because the whole thing that they're doing is actually supporting Lolo Rito. I think Lolo Rito is the bad guy working in the shadows. We've been made to think that Teleji Adeleji is the bad boy, but I am 100% team Adeleji. I think he's a good boy. He's a bit of a bastard, as all of the capitalists are, but at the same time, I don't think he's the one orchestrating this mass conspiracy to get all the Alamegans killed in order to make a power grab in the democracy. I think what we're seeing here is literally just setting up a political rivalry between Raoban, or potentially even Teleji Adeleji versus Lolo Rito, which would be hilarious. They go from having a Lalafell monarch to having a Lalafell democratic leader. They just changed hats, that's all. But I think it's all setting up to have this kind of powder keg blow up of what's going to happen when Nanimo steps down. And I do think it's going to come down to Raoban versus somebody else, probably Lolo Rito. Lolo Rito's going to have all the racists and the xenophobes on his side. And as we've seen, that can be a large portion of a population, depending on how the media works. And then there's going to be the sort of the social liberals, if you will, either under Raoban, who are going for the ideals of justice and all that stuff. And remember that in a story, the whole purpose is to often illustrate, either in a tragedy, it's to illustrate the pitfalls of mismanaging opportunities. And I'm very specific about that language. Or it is about celebrating the triumph of holding on to the good ideals. The whole point being showing negative traits and how they can cause harm, or showing the virtues that can lead to good things and why you should hold on to them. This is how theme works. The story is meant to teach you lessons. That's what storytelling does for humans. Every story you've ever read is there to teach you something about life, about living, about the human experience, about how to navigate the world. Every one of them. They may never say that to you, but that's what they're doing. And that's what theme is. What am I supposed to learn about the world? What am I supposed to understand better? What piece of wisdom have I gained from experiencing this surrogate experience? You know, because it's not really my experience, but our ability to empathize with the characters. Go in and see what's happening to them, and then put ourselves in that position of the protagonist. That's what you're supposed to do. And then living that experience through them, you're supposed to learn something yourself. It's like VR training for the personality and for your for your brain. Before there was VR, we did that. That's what we did. And it's this virtual experience, if you will. Surrogate experience, proxy experience, any one of those words you want to use, they all apply. So I suspect that that's what we're seeing over there. I think the Crystal Braves are going to play out. I don't really know. And I think it just goes into the Ul'dah thing. I think the Ul'dah situation is going to be probably the biggest climax that we see here. But I think the Scions are going to be wrapped up in it pretty deep. And I think ultimately Alphino as well. Alphino could potentially become bad boy. Could potentially become villain. Because I think he might get wrapped up in the allure of power. And I think he may end up following Lolo Rito to some extent. Although, it all comes down to one thing. When the conspiracy in the Crystal Braves is revealed, Alphino either has no clue what's going on, and he's going to fix it, or he's going to go, push up his glasses, exactly as I had planned, you know, or some shit like that, you know. And may even fake it in the moment. Who knows how deep it goes. Fucking snake. So we're just going to have to see how this stuff ends up playing together. I mean, you kind of need to see it where if you got 2 glasses of water and you just open them onto each other like this, you just put them together like that, and it all just splashes up. You don't know how the water is going to go, right? There's so many physics at play. When you get a bunch of these narratives that are kind of doing this on their own, and then all of a sudden they're going to come together, it's kind of hard to see how the pieces are going to fall, how the splash is going to play out. Not impossible, but often difficult, because you're adding so many layers of complexity. You're going to be like, well, this one little thing over here could make this person move over here, and that's going to change this all the way over here, and it's just fucking marbles rolling down a hill at some point, you know? Hard to predict how all of them are going to go. Now, with the rest of the Scions, I have suspicions of Philemine. Not in that I think she's going to do something wrong, but that she has an emotional attachment to a couple other characters, but doesn't seem to be doing much herself. She's waiting in the... Hello, cat. She's waiting in the wings, I think, to die or to be collateral damage. I could see that happening with Papalimo and Yida. They've had a pretty climactic rise recently. Getting them slapped down or letting that rise be their sort of last hurrah, which is a trope itself. The last hurrah trope, things are going to get really good for them and then they fucking die. I could see that happening to them as well. It's tough. I feel like there's going to have to be collateral damage. The question is who's going to get caught in the crossfire. That's the biggest question I have here. And that's kind of everything I wanted to talk about. I've got all that out, so that's all on the table. Whatever happens next, I'm going to go in armed with that information, so now we're all on the same page when I'm like, we saw that coming, didn't we? We're gonna know. But the idea is, again, not to be like, oh, I saw that coming. I predicted it. I'm so good. It's about exploring. Shout out to canned hamsters. Nice. It's about exploring the possible avenues and then celebrating when one of them is taken, because we are trying to predict what we think the best outcome will be as far as the cathartic result of the writing. We want catharsis. I want to cry. And here's the beautiful thing. Just a little side note here. Put this in the sidebar of footnote. I've been crying a lot since I got, since the medication I'm on has basically made me not depressed anymore, which is great. I've been crying a lot. I actually cried again last night. For anybody who's seen, what's it called? Assassin's Creed 3. There's a character named Achilles, and he is your mentor figure. And mentor figures, as you know, what usually happens to them? I'll give you 3 seconds to state the obvious. They die. It's what they do. They are there to build up the protagonist, set them on their direction, and then get shot, right there. That's what happens to them. That's right. So you know it's going to happen, and they always die at one of two positions. I mean, literally, there's only one of two places they can die, because they can't die twice, usually. They're going to die at the midpoint climax in order to up the stakes of the story, increase the tension, make the protagonist isolated, and force them to grow up and be on their own. And then, we revisit their grave at the end of the story. Point B is, after the journey is complete, we find that the mentor, having nothing left to give, finally relaxes, finally rests and dies, right? Their job is complete, and at that point they have nothing left to live for. But it's not that morbid, They held on long enough to get the job done, and now it's finished. They can finally rest, and that's exactly what happens to Achilles. I saw it coming from the entire story. I knew it was going to happen. I cried like a fucking baby when they found him in his chair having passed. I was so sad. so sad. I cried. It makes me choke up now. He was such a good guy. He just wanted to help, And it was a bit of sadness, and that's all I say, and then I'll finally get on with it. It's sad because it's about the revolutionary times in America, and it's going on all the way through it. Like, you talk to the founding fathers, everything. But he's a former assassin, and he's a black man. So there's this hopelessness in his character that he talks about throughout the entire story. But the protagonist is indigenous American, so none of the protagonists are white. And they're talking about how the British are super racist, but the Americans are no less. And there's a cutscene near the end of the game where, after everything has happened, part of the epilogue is the protagonist walks down the street and he sees a platform upon which African-American slaves are being sold. And he doesn't say anything about it, but it just shows us, and we're like, we're no better off, are we? And then there's a sort of hopelessness for Achilles that he expresses, where he knows, yes, the Americans have won, but only the white ones. And our history has shown that to be the case, right? And it's just, there was a bit of sadness because even though he was victorious, the victory wasn't his to have. Oh, God, I hate it. So when he dies, it's kind of like, this is the only piece he's going to get. He's never going to have the option of living a long and happy life. It's never going to be an option open to him, and it's so fucking sad. I hate it. But yeah, I cried like a baby because it was like, it's a terrible outcome, and that this was kind of the only option he had to be happy and free, but at least he is those things now. I don't know. Anyway, so we'll see. I imagine I'm going to cry like a baby, and I may turn the camera off if that happens, because I don't want to cry on camera. But I've always been a crier. I've always been somebody who, I have no problem crying. I think it's a great thing to do. It's great for your health. It's great for your mental health. It's great because things that are cathartic need to be taken out of the body. And crying is the way that happens. So I'm totally happy to cry. Stories that are good, even if they're not sad, they'll make me cry. I'll get emotional from them, and I love that. I haven't been able to do that in years. So I am hoping it makes me cry. It will be, and even things where I see them coming, like I said, and that was the reason I told you about Achilles, even things that I predict will happen can still have the emotional payoff, and sometimes even more, like with Moonbrita. If I didn't see her sacrifice coming, even in the moments before it happened, if I didn't have an idea it was coming, it would have hit me. But the fact that I saw it coming gave me more time to anticipate it. So sometimes the predicted emotional moment can be even more emotional. Also, can I just say, I'm super sketched out by what looks like a trap door that never gets used. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we don't use it here. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna go shut my door, turn the fan on, blow your boyfriend, and then I'll be right back and we'll get this going. It's about time, isn't it? Oh boy. Oh. Okay. You know, because if I don't see something coming at all, one of two things happen. Successfully, the writer subverted my expectations, which is not common. Option B is I fucking miss stuff, which is entirely possible. Because I only see what I see. A lot of the time I'll forget things that I've seen. There's been a long time between the last time we did any questing, right? It's been a long time, so I'm quite sure that I've been missing stuff, but we'll see. I still think Alphino and Alice are safe because Rian wouldn't have let me do this until Bahamut was finished if he thought it was going to be relevant. So we'll see. I don't think anything big with Alphino is going to happen. It will, but like it won't be character changing. He doesn't become a villain. He doesn't do any of those things. I think he's going to just be the victim of his own ignorance, and I think other people are going to pay the price for that. We'll see, though. You ready? No? Okay, going anyway. Time for every purpose. Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah, I'm worried about Minfilia, actually. I am actually quite worried about her. Not that I think something is going to happen to her. This is another thing I wanted to talk about was Minfilia. I forgot about this. There is... and this happens in politics too, but in writing there is sometimes a character, sometimes a person is looking for a hill to die on. They're looking for a hill to die on, and as soon as they find that hill, they're only too happy to throw themselves upon the sword. I am concerned that the effects of Moonbrita on Minfilia are going to be that she feels she's not doing enough, and as a result, the only way for her to be a true leader, I think she's got the mistake that the only way for her to be a true leader is to make the sacrifice that nobody else has to. And I also wonder... So I wonder if she's going to valiantly find a way to sacrifice herself. I think she's sensitive to those opportunities. I don't know if the Crystal Tower is going to play into this very much. Question, was the Crystal Tower required, or was it side content I could ignore? I had to do Crystal Tower as part of the quest line, right? I'm pretty sure I did, but I need confirmation because that matters. Crystal Tower was not required at 2.55. It is now required. So it was not required at the time, which means that those storylines almost certainly do not overlap, which is nice because it keeps things a little simpler. Okay. It keeps things a little simpler. I still have my own ideas about what's going to happen to Garahak, but we're not going to worry about that here. I am worried that Menphelia is looking for something to sacrifice herself on out of guilt from Umbrita because she still blames herself for Umbrita's death. I would not be surprised if we lose Philomene purely because it hurts Menphelia. Perhaps it's a reestablishment of her sacrificial mantra in that Philomene sacrifices herself for Menphelia, and it just kind of, it's a second Moonbrita, and we want to punish Menphelia even more. Like, that'd be a fucked up thing to do. Have her mother sacrifice herself somehow to protect Menphelia, and the Menphelia has just got the biggest survivor's guilt complex that we've ever seen. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen because it would be this triumphant, no, it wasn't that I should died in their place. I'm going to live in their memory, and then blah, blah, blah. That's her climactic moment. What a resurgence of will. You know, that would be fantastic. That's how Survivor's Guilt often plays out, is that, you know, I was given this opportunity. I'm not going to throw it away just because I don't believe I should have had it. I have it. I'm going to use it. It's usually how that goes. That's how you're supposed to react to that sort of thing. Okay. But I am worried about her. I think she's going to be the center of a lot of stuff that goes on here. Alphino and Menphelia have been the two heads of the narrative so far, and everything that happens seemed to revolve around one of the two of them. All the other minor characters I'm not really concerned about necessarily. I don't know who that's going to be the collateral damage here. I don't know who that's going to be. There has to be collateral damage. There has to be fallout, but the question is who. Does Nanimo survive? Big question. Not sure. I don't have a leaning right now. I'd put it up to a coin flip, probably be as accurate as my prediction. I think that there is going to have to be collateral damage, so let's just see how bad it is. Let's rip the Band-Aid off, chat. I know there's going to be a warning before the big cutscenes, but still. Though recent events weigh heavily on our minds, we must needs set them aside for now. Also, I'm not performing at all, so sorry. If the scenes are emotional scenes need to be voice acted, or I'm going to fuck them up. I'm not performing. Cold read performances are nasty. We are come to a defining moment in Eorzean history. The grand commemoration of our joint defense of Ishgard, the first time in 15 long years that our people have stood side by side with our neighbors to the north to fight in common cause. You got to be full lung for that. Oh, last thing, hold on. No, last thing. The whole thing for Ishgard is, yeah, I think all of Ishgard is going to be basically in Heavensward, but there's still going to be some setup that needs to happen before then. I can't remember the good boy liaison that we've been talking to from Ishgard. The guy in all the armor, I'm going to lick his butthole. I can't remember his name. He's besties with Estinian, whose butthole I also want to lick. But I think what's going to happen with all of that, Emmerich, it's Emmerich, yeah. What I think is going to happen with Emmerich is, because he is like this absolutely unequivocally good guy, whenever you have Harshafant as well, there are so many side characters that could end up in trouble here, but I doubt it for Harshafant. I doubt it. For now, I think it'd be like, here's the thing, you gotta decide. It's not It's not that I don't think these things are going to happen. It's that I think they have to happen later. I think they're going to be during Heavensward at some point. But still want to establish them what I think is going to happen here, because I will forget again. I think with Emmerich, his sort of archetype is the voice of reason. The voice of reason is almost always killed when you have a fanatical body. The voice of reason is almost always killed. And I'm really worried for Emmerich for that reason. He's dealing with a very insular theocracy. They love burning heretics at the stake, or in this case, throwing them into pits. I have almost no doubt that the fact that we have a pet dragon, who is a big daddy dragon, is going to run counter to the theological beliefs of all of Ishgard. So there's going to be a little culture shock. We are heretic number 1. Okay? They don't know that yet. I don't think we've quite pieced it together for ourselves yet. I imagine Emmerich is going to be tested, but ultimately see that what we're doing is good. He then becomes a heretic himself. And in trying to juggle his two identities, if you will, I think he's going to end up eventually becoming a sacrificial lamb, either to spur us on, or he's going to somehow assume the blame in some way. He's going to have to sacrifice himself for us, or he's going to have to become collateral damage. But it's more climactic if he sacrifices himself in some way. But I think all that has to happen in Heavensward, because we haven't invested enough emotionally into him for either of those two outcomes to have a whole lot of payoff. So I don't think it's going to happen here. I'd be surprised. That whole thing with Ishgard, I think, is going to be a sort of side note to what's happening here. We're going to probably put out feelers, start new threads. We're going to bear some threads out from this point and sort of give them places to hook in once we start Heavensward. But I don't see those things getting resolved here. Like, what the hell else would we do in Heavensward, right? What I think is going to happen here is a lot of the problem with Ul'dah being resolved, and the problem with the Crystal Braze being solved. And I think those things are in line with each other. So that's what we'll see. But I just wanted to talk about Emmerich real quick, because I was in the shower and I was like this. I'm like, Emmerich has to die. Oh no. Just like that. Yeah, it was a moment. I've had several moments like that throughout this whole thing. So we'll just see what happens. I'm going to continue from this point, though. Oh boy. This may mark the true rebirth for the Eosian Alliance. I think that has to fracture. We'll see. Failing that, it should at the very least serve to bring the nations closer together. Now, whenever you set expectations like this, it has to go horribly wrong, so we're getting some of these paths reinforced here. Slowly look to the left. We have every reason to raise our voices in celebration, do we not? We have bested Gervanians and Ascians both. Against desperate odds we have fought and won. But the primals still plague us, and the Empire still plots our subjugation. And our triumphs, remarkable though they are, were bought at a terrible price. Brave adventurers and allies, broken on the steps of faith, and before our eyes in this very room, our dear friend Moonbrida. Yeah, see, we knew she was going to come back and dwell on this again, right? It's really at the forefront of her mind. Her interactions with Moonbrida, I think, were the first time that she was really shaken. She had seen kind of scary events happen. She had been captured twice. All of this stuff was going on, but Moonbrida's death got to her in a way that the other things that have happened have been in the line of her duty. Unfortunate things that have happened, we solve them, we deal with them. Moonbrida's death, I think, blindsided her. She didn't see it coming. She didn't anticipate it. And I don't like that Moonbrida died at all, but they did it so well, because right as they gave her a lot of personality so that we would very quickly decide we like her, right? She gave us a lot of fan service, not in the sense that she was showing us tits, but she went over, she squished Urianger. She had such an overwhelming presence of personality and so positive. She was so likable from the very start. I had concerns, as you should do, but I also gravitated to her really quickly, as I was supposed to, because in a cast of people who are pretty muted, they don't have a ton of personality. Moonbrita comes in like the goddamn sun, and we see her, and obviously we're going to gravitate toward her as an oasis of personality in the middle of a fucking desert. So then they needed us to gravitate to her quickly because they were going to kill her quickly. And I won't say I saw it coming. I thought this was just a new character. They're going to start giving us a little bit more depth to the personality. This is great. It was in the back of my mind as a personality, as a possibility, but I didn't really see it as being likely because they wouldn't want to get rid of the most interesting character as soon as she showed up. But hey, not every prediction's correct, and that's the fun of it, right? We're not predicting because we want to be correct. We're predicting because we're looking at the possibilities of what could happen from this point, right? And it's purely objective. We're not in the sense that we're, you know, I was right, I was wrong. We don't care about that. We care about that prediction happened. I didn't see this one coming. And we look back at what we know in order to see, well, how did this become a good plot point? It doesn't always end up revealing that it was good. In the case of the Lancers Guild, it was frustrating the entire way through because every single time they told us something, it was just fucking wrong. Anyway, with this, we're seeing that Moonbrita got to Menphelia in a way that nothing else did or could have. We were blindsided as much as she was, and it's good writing when you can have a character feel the same thing as the reader. Whenever you get that emotional resonance between the two, that's successful writing. It's very successful writing. So I'm glad that we're seeing it here. It's good to see something having shaken her, because I feel like she's been kind of asleep at the wheel and autopiloting this whole time, which is not a problem. It's not bad writing. It's who she is. I had been saying for a long time until Moonbrita, I want Menphelia to become a leader. I want her to step into her role and start really doing it. My frustration with her character is the frustration that I think Alphino has with her, is that she seems to be a passive leader. We need an active leader, somebody who's not reactive to things, somebody who's proactive about these things. Alphino sees himself as the superior leader because he thinks he's the proactive one. He thinks he's just inherently a better leader than she is, but he doesn't want to say that to her. He wants her passively helping him. A passive leader, when you're an active one, makes you in control of both, but you can delegate all the management to her, right? So it's advantageous for him to do that. It's kind of shitty, but it's his advantageous. It's to his advantage, and he took advantage of that possibility, as we've seen. What needs to happen, and I've talked about this before, is Menphelia's down here and Alphino's up here. What needs to happen is bam. Menphelia needs to grow in her own boots as a leader. Alphino needs to sit the fuck down. And what we've seen so far is Alphino getting his way and Menphelia not fighting him on anything at all. She has been entirely supportive, as she should be, but she has also been subservient in a way where she is taking orders from Alphino when he makes a suggestion of what to do. She never pushes back. And she never says, I think you should handle that while we go do this. At most, she said, I think at some point, I don't know if we can do that. It was a matter of resources. It was a matter of manpower. It wasn't a matter of decision-making. It wasn't a choice. She was informing him that she may not be capable of carrying out his instructions, which is very different than saying we can, but we're not going to. There's a very big difference there. She's never done that. She's not drawn a line in the sand with anybody or anything, but obviously you can see she is coming to the realization that she is going to have to become more active in her role as a leader. She has to become more of a decision maker. She has to take the organization and direct them rather than just sitting back and letting them go where they're going. She really just like, she's a valet who lifts the velvet rope as somebody walks in. She's not really making anybody go anywhere. She's not a bouncer. She's not the host of the party. She herself is just the valet who pulls the rope back so the guys can go through wherever they want to go. And anytime someone comes up to her and goes, can I go through there? She's like, yes, of course. And then lets them through. Even if it's an area they're not supposed to go in, or even if she knows they'd be happier somewhere else. She doesn't say those things. She didn't do those things. And it makes her a weak leader, and I've complained about that in the past, but it doesn't make her a bad character, and there's a very big difference between those. But whenever you see these character flaws play out so deeply, you're waiting for something to wake them the fuck up. Moonbreeda dying is what that moment was. She hasn't fully come to terms with it, but I mean, you can feel in her dialogue there's a little bit more resolution in what she's saying now than she has had pretty much ever. And I think that that's going to culminate in her deciding to take a stand. But again, I also think that she might end up looking for an opportunity to sacrifice herself, thinking that that's what makes a good leader. It's not what makes a good leader. Leaders should not be self-sacrificing. They should be the opposite. They should be self-preserving, because they are not their own. They are the hopes of the organization. They are the consciousness of the organization. Without them, the organization dissolves, potentially. So what needs to happen is the leader needs to stay alive to direct it. You have other people whose job it is to sacrifice themselves potentially in order to carry out your will as the leader. She may not recognize the difference in those things yet, so we're gonna see. All I know is whatever's about to happen is going to answer pretty much all of my questions, because that's what a climax should do. It should answer every question you have. It should wrap those things up. Anything not wrapped up here, at the end of the full cutscene sequences, all of it at the end of 2.55, it will become things that get resolved during Heavensward. We'll have a really good idea what that landscape's going to look at, but we need to clear the rest of this stuff out. So, without further ado, listen, every line of dialogue, if there's something to talk about, that's what I'm going to be doing. You do not need to look at this stream as being like, we're just going to watch some cutscenes together. Nope. That's not how we do around here. You literally go to any other content creator, they're just going to watch the cutscenes and read the dialogue, okay? What you're here for, hopefully, is the analysis that happens. That's what I'm here to do. That's what makes it exciting to me. Everything I'm saying is what's going through my head very quickly. It takes me longer to say it, but it's going through my head very quickly. And I want to share that with you, because this is how I consume literature, is painstakingly. This is the victory we have wrought, and it is as bitter as ash. Oh, and it is as bitter ashes in my mouth. Yeah, it's not satisfying for her. The cost of victory is too great. I would sooner stay here and invite those with more appetite to enjoy the feast in my stead. Yeah. Alas, it is a royal banquet, and all of our allies will be in attendance. I didn't remember we were going to a banquet. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, how many, oh Jesus. Oh, Jesus, how many people? Oh, it's not going to be poison, y'all. They're going to get stabbed in their chairs. Fuck. Oh, no. I forgot about the banquet, y'all. I was looking for, like, when is the floor going to drop out under us, you know? When is that going to happen? Oh, fuck. It has to be the banquet, isn't it? I mean, I'm getting Final Fantasy XII vibes. Vayne invites all these guys to a banquet and then fucking kills everybody. Not on screen, but he uses the banquet as an opportunity to draw out resistance forces and then fucking crushes them because he was anticipating it. We do have the glam for the part. We have worked very hard getting our relic to make sure that we look fucking great in all of these cutscenes. So here we are. Oh no. We look like we're ready for a royal banquet. That's true. Oh, God. It is a royal banquet, and all our allies will be in attendance. It is our duty to present a unified front, that we might serve as a beacon of hope for all. Unified front is going to be dangerous, because Alphino does not know how to do anything unified unless he's in charge. And that's my concern for what's going to happen. I turned my fan off. That's my concern for what's going to happen here, is she understands we have to present a unified front. This is very much a political game, nothing else. I think Alphino is going to take too much advantage of the opportunity to have this much political audience, and may fuck something up. We'll see. I don't necessarily think so, but the royal banquet, we're going to be looking at who's missing. Whoever's missing is going to be a very important character. Whoever's not there is what we're looking for. Everyone there, though, potential collateral damage. Right now, butthole's puckered, okay? Oh, he's so cute. I love his flowers. Great. It seems I have no choice but to take my own advice. I instructed the others to meet us in Ul'dah, that we might take our grand entrance together. Do we walk into the banquet and they're already dead? Like, how is this going to go wrong? Oh, damn. What if they're already dead when we arrive, and as the ones who alert the guard, we end up being the ones implicated? I thought that that might be the problem, the case here, especially with the conspiracy of the Crystal Braves being so trying to instigate a problem with the Alamegans in order to paint them in a bad light. I think Lolo Rito might be pulling the strings behind the whole thing. Lolo Rito, as a potentially one of the only surviving members of the Sultanate, may end up being a person with political authority to say that we were the ones. Who's going to believe us over them? Fuck. God, I could see that playing out that way. I don't like it, but yeah. The reason I don't like that is that it feels not cliche, but it seems like we've seen that happen a lot. You know, we get blamed for the thing that we walked in on, wrong place, wrong time. It ends up being this big thing where we've got to prove our innocence, but like at the same time, I don't know, man. It's tough. Let me go turn my fan on. It's getting hot in here. Hello. Oh, you're all fucked up. What are you doing? Okay. No. All right. Unfortunately, I had to settle for leaving Tataru and... Oh, let me in a note. If they do not return quickly, they'll have to settle for whatever leftovers I can smuggle out of the fragrant chamber. This is an important moment. We know something is going to have to go wrong at the banquet now. At this moment, we should know something is going to go wrong. We have specifically, as the writers, we have specifically dedicated dialogue to pointing out that Tataru, Philamine will not be there. And that they will be arriving late to find this letter, and if something goes wrong with us, they're going to... This is sowing the seeds of a resolution later. It may be Tataru's grand entrance where she comes to rescue us, because she's been looking this entire time for a way to feel helpful beyond just being a secretary. This is going to be how she helps. She's going to rescue us. Somehow, she's going to rescue us. Philamine is also going to be there, but I think Philamine's going to end up dying in the process. I don't think Philamine makes it out of this alive. I don't. I think that there's too much powder in the keg of Philamine's death for it not to go off here. However, there is still potentially value for her as she mentors Menphilia, but let's be real, mentor characters die. It's what they do. So we're going to see. I don't know, but this is a very interesting line. It looks like a throwaway line. It's never a throwaway line, ever. It's never. Not in good writing. In bad writing, always a throwaway line. In good writing, that's foreshadowing. Wait a minute. He's supposed to be dead, right? We found his body. What? Isn't he supposed to be dead? Maybe that's why this is so special. Maybe he has faked his death in order to continue his investigation, which I think would be great. But yeah, I didn't expect him to come. The dead one was Wilred. Okay. Okay, I'm glad, because I was like, if he can't, okay, that's interesting if he came back from the dead, but I really didn't see it happening. Yeah, Wilred. Yeah. Okay, so Real is somebody else. Is Real in on it? I can't remember. I don't think he's in on it. I don't remember. I think Wilred, yeah, the second one you said. I think. Off to the big soiree, Mico. Here's a glass for me, eh? Or not. You don't look best pleased. Something on your mind? I don't trust any of you blueberry fucks. That's probably exactly what... I probably wouldn't say that, but yeah. By the Navigator, Wilred's dead? Yeah. God damn it, they must know they've been rumbled. Oh. That doesn't necessarily mean he's a good guy, but he is aware of the conspiracy, which is interesting. I mean, sod it. Just past time we've had this talk. After our last conversation, I got to thinking about where certain funds were coming from. So I had to dig around on the quiet like, and sure enough, I found it. He's gonna say Teleji Adeleji, but he's wrong. Seems a fair bit of coins made its way into the Braves' coffers courtesy of a Dodo Consortium. A daft name for a business if I ever heard one. A shell company, of course. Which is what first gave me an inkling that something weren't right. So I went through the ledgers again and found another half-dozen donations from organizations with stupid bloody names. Didn't take long to find the common thread. All were owned by the Mirage Trust. Oh, I'll give the bastard credit. He showed us up for the amateurs we are. Short of calling one of his businesses the bloody bribery consortium, I don't know what more he could have done to mock our rules on financial contribution. The gods only know how many men of the first and third are taken to Teleji's coin. Did I not say it? They're still committing to the idea that Teleji Adeleji is the bad boy, but he's a good boy. I will not stand to watch his name be besmirched. But now we know as some of them are. I'd wager my right eye they're the ones that did for Wilred. I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually the conspirators within the Crystal Braves who killed him. He probably got discovered while trying to oversee them or spy on them, or he was brought out there and he went to engage them in some way in conversation, and then they killed him because they knew he was onto them. Something happened there, you know. We'll see. I still suspect that it was Crystal Braves who killed him. I don't think it was a random hit from Lolorito. The earnest young fool had taken to asking the wrong kind of questions. Bound to attract attention, he was. Should have seen it at the time, but I didn't. God's damn me. This is why you read. This is why you read. You get to practice seeing these things happen. Still, I don't see what Teleji hopes to accomplish. He hid a scheme with all the care of a drunk pissing into the wind because it's supposed to be found. He wanted it to be found, or Lolorito wanted it to be found. Teleji's being framed. No, he's cleverer than this. So we need to be clever too. That's the only way we'll ever repay this debt of blood. We'll purge every one of them traitorous bastards from our ranks. On that, you have my word. That is dangerous for him to start talking about because it can be difficult to know who the real bad guys are and then start killing innocents. Realistically, this is something for Alfino to figure out, but I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to be in denial that one of the Crystal Braves could possibly be a problem. But I said that there was going to be a problem with the Crystal Braves in the beginning when we were just literally poking around for anybody who will join us, being like, you want to join our club? Like, come on. What the fuck? That's not how you can, like, one of the premier, was supposed to be like the premier military force in Eorzea. You're not just like, hey, here's a flyer, come join us, we have pizza on Thursdays, you know? That was the tone at which we were asking around. That shit doesn't work. You're going to get spies and moles. You make the cost of entry so low and the requirements of assimilation so easy to fake, you know. Trust is easily developed in an environment like this where Alfino is so desperate for approval. He's going to bend over backwards to get it. And it's exactly what we're seeing. Hold on, real quick. Here we go. Interesting, though. This line is really interesting. My nose is so itchy today. Sorry. Okay. And Mico, mind yourself when you're in Ildai. We're heading into a storm. I can smell it. Yeah. When they start explicitly telling you, hey, reader, shit's about to happen, you know it's about to happen. That, or they subvert your expectations and nothing happens until after the banquet. I could definitely see this happening. The banquet ends, we go home, everyone who remains ends up getting stabbed in the back. And I could see that happening, and, you know, we leave the room, and then all these mysterious assailants show up, and then we end up getting blamed for it. I hope we don't end up getting blamed for what happens here. However, whatever's going to happen, I think it's too obvious to think that there's going to be some showdown happening at the banquet, making us all tense during the banquet, trying to see the shadows in the corners. is an interesting thing to do as the writer, and that will subvert our expectations in a way that doesn't force them to change directions of the narrative, which I think is a good way to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens, but I don't think it's likely, so we'll see. What the fuck is that emote? Andy Clown. Well, fuck you, Rion. The kind what'll sweep a man overboard and drag him under before he knows it. Yeah, we're absolutely walking into a bear trap. We're going to be in the trap. We're going to have everything, all the hooks are going to be in before we realize what's going on. We are already fucked. Is almost certainly what's going to happen. I hope to God it is not poison. If it's anything other than poison, Mico will be a happy boy. All right, speak with the Mythilia on the Royal Promenade. Off to Ul'dah. It's time. God, I'm nervous in the sense that I know something is about to happen. I know it's going to be very bad. I don't want the bad thing to happen, so maybe I just don't go. We've delayed the bad thing happening for a month and a half at this point, I think, as we've been attempting other stuff. Okay. Fucking Cersei Lannister, what is wrong with you? I bet you're embarrassed to have named yourself after that shitty show. All right. I walked away from the crystal again, so I guess we're going down to this one. Every fucking time. There we go. Oh, damn. I thought his name was the Notorious Big, and then he was of Nut Clan. I would have been... Oh, shout out to Oatmeal. Hell yeah. That's great. I guess we're going just down here instead. There we go. Fern? Excuse me, he's found one of Fern's alts. There we go. All right, Chamber of Rule. Pretty sure that's where we need to go. Yeah, so I've laid down all my expectations and my ideas on the floor, so we're going to see what happens at this point, you know? No clue. Okay, who are the players we have here? Thancred has been hopelessly underdeveloped, but he's also, at this point, my least likable character. I think I'll take Alphino over him, because we're still kind of overlooking the fact that he was a goddamn traitor. Doesn't matter if he meant to or not. We know he's vulnerable to the Ascians, and we just kind of overlook the fact that that happened. We're just like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Anyway. You know, Y'shtola is probably the most dynamic character of the group. I feel like she has had a kind of climactic moment of development, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't have more to develop. Yida, I think, has very little to offer remaining, and Papalimo, I think, has very little offer to remaining. If anyone in this group is going to die, it's probably these two. Hello? Oh, hi. Hello, friend. Oh, look at everybody. Look at all of you. We have to get a picture. We have to get a picture. Where's Catboy? We have to get a big old picture with everybody. This is fantastic. There we go. I like the arms crossed. This is fantastic. What is Snake doing back? Snake, bitch, get up here. Oh, everyone looks so good. Yes, it does not like the hot climate. All right, let me know when you got the G-pose going and I'll move on. Snake, get down here, dude. Join us. Be in the big group picture. We need to be doing this where we get pictures with each other as often as we can. I think we need to make mementos of the journey. We can look back and just start crying with each other. Perfect. Oh, nice, Panda. Nice. So strong. So buff. What a girl boss. There we go. Y'all are also cute. Stuff like this is what makes it special for me. So, I super appreciate it. Come on, get down here, bitch. You even dressed up for it. Come on. Come down here. Everyone is online should be part of this. Oh, look at us. Look at us. Damn, Snake looks good. He's like a tomato vampire. Alright, y'all let me know when I can move. I do want to be in the G-pose picture. Yeah, fucking two Hildies. We got two Hildies in the group. Fucking nightmare. Yeah, we'll see. We know the players we have on the board now. We know Alfino's going to show up with some of his Crystal Braves, I'm pretty sure. Then we're going to have the full Sultanate. I would not be surprised to find that Teleji is not here and that also Lolarito is not here. I would not be surprised. Yes, be in the picture. Please, Tim Eshelman, please join us. He stopped for a second. Excellent. I can now move. Okay, good. Fantastic. Let's do it. Oh, boy. We've been waiting for you, Mico. The celebration is due to begin shortly. I had hoped that we might make our introductions together, but Mistress Momodi just sent word that you are needed at the quicksand. We are going to be the ones who walk into the trap last. We are going to discover that some shit has happened. I don't like this. We will go on ahead, Mico. Don't, please. It's a horror movie. Don't split up. Pray join us once matters at the quicksand are resolved. We're gonna be late to a royal banquet because Momodi said, "Hey, need you to do a favor for me." Give my regards to Momodi and let her know that I will call upon her anon. Fucking you go, Thancred. I'm the warrior of light, motherfucker. You go talk to Momodi. Deliver your message yourself and solve her fucking errand. Oh, they just needed an excuse for me to have to walk away while they walk in. Oh, no. Oh, no. Very bad things are happening. Oh, you see it coming and you can't do anything about it. I can just teleport over there, can't I? I did it again. There we go. Oh boy. It's that feeling in the pit of your stomach where it's like, you know you're in trouble. But listen, Green Bean, you can't stand on things. You're already tall. You can't be taller. I appreciate you dropping in on such short notice, Mico. I know you've got places to be, so I won't waste your time. You already failed on that. Let's go. You're friends with the Crystal Brave by the name of Alianne, aren't you? Farmer adventurer? Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure you recruited her yourself. Well, anyway, she came around for a meal not too long ago, and before she left, she asked me to give you a message. Said if the others ended up dragging you to the feast, I was to see you got it before you made your grand entrance. A warning. Oh, we're getting a warning. What does she know that we didn't know? Meet me at the station west of the Coffer and Coffin. There's something I must show you. A short message I'll grant you, but she thought long and hard before picking those words. Barely touched her food, too. Oh, she's nervous. Anxiety. Under the circumstances, I'd have thought those signs of a troubled heart, but something tells me she ain't planning to confess her undying love. Well, you said too much, Momodi. Say less. Rendezvous with Alianne in Central Thanalan. Holy we're going far. Oh, no. The fact that we're going outside the city could be that we haven't. There's a bigger uproar than just me being downstairs while this is happening upstairs. Me being out of the city is a much bigger scope of separation. We are not there for a potential Alamigan uprising. I think an actual rebellion is probably happening at this moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the method by which most of the people in the banquet hall are going to be assassinated. All of the people theoretically responsible for the Alamigan suffering are in one place. Ugh. All these weapons have gone missing. Ugh. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get there and we're going to find either in the middle of a battle is happening in the middle of the banquet hall or they're all fucking dead, stabbed through the back of their chairs in sequence. And we weren't there to do anything about it. I don't necessarily think... Is Alianne part of it? Because she's the one luring me so far away. Or is she not part of it, and this is just a really sad fumbling on our part of just not seeing the boulder coming? Who knows? It could be either one. Whatever is about to happen, none of this is an accident. Yeah, this is such a weird fucking spot to go to just so we can talk. We've been shot at here before. A dude was assassinated right over here before. Like, let's be real. We have some history with some shit going down over here. Uh-oh. Okay. This is not good. This is not good. As you stand upon the platform, your thoughts begin to wander. And all too soon, the ghosts of comrades lost and enemies slain begin to file by your mind's eye in solemn procession. Clearing your head, you scan the horizon, but see no signs of Alien. Yeah. I don't think she's coming, dude. I didn't think she would either. I think she was deciding whether to betray us or not. That was the decision there. Straining your ears to listen, you hear the chatter of a cairn and the buzzing of Sifrits, but no approaching footfall. Sighing, you bow your head, only to notice the vial laying at your feet. Oh shit, I noticed that before. Actually, I didn't see that. Wow. Well done. Laurentius? Oh. Mico, is that you? What brings you out this way? What brings you out here, fucker? What are you doing out here? He's got the mutton chops of a villain. Suspicious. Lieutenant Alien. Why, no, I haven't seen her about. If she came this way, I guarantee we... Oh, had she come this way, I guarantee we would have crossed paths. I must have passed this spot a dozen times. We're to patrol the city's environs on account of the royal banquet. Captain's orders, you understand. Ah, we're supposed to be out of the city during the banquet. We're supposed to be out of the city while all this is happening. The people who are most likely to be able to quell the rebellion, stop the plot, are not there by design. Captain's in on it. Ilberd, I think is his name, Ilberd. Captain's orders, you understand. Speaking of which, isn't it about to begin? You should be with the other honored guests, enjoying your well-deserved respite. Aye, pray return to Ul'dah, Mico. If I chance to meet the lieutenant, I'll tell her you were here. Oh, she knows. I think she was at the... Oh, this lingering camera. He is on the conspiracy then. Is she dead? She might be dead. She might have been killed before she was able to warn me. Oh no.
O Sultan Tree, hallowed spirit of my line. Through my weakness, the glorious house of Ul has all but disappeared beneath the sands. For want of the strength to raise it up again, it were better that it fall. Forgive me, but I know not what else to do.
We have two options here. Ilian was assassinated before she was able to warn me, which is what I suspect is happening because of Laurentius. I do want to talk to him again. I want to see what he has to say. The vial is interesting. I wonder if it is some kind of potion she took to disappear, if it is a poison. In any case, he warned somebody when we were down here, and that is muy suspicious. Let's talk to him again. It's going to be like small talk. Gods, I envy you. All that food and wine, but I cannot think of a man more deserving. Enjoy the feast, Mico. You've earned it. That "you've earned it" line, the feast means a couple things. If he knows what's going to happen at the feast, then enjoy your assassination. You've earned it. You know, it's got that tone to it. Show the clouded vial to Momodi. Yeah, we'll see. Clouded vial. I mean, once we identify what's in this vial, we'll know what happened to her. I doubt it was something... It's empty, though. It's been used. That's the question. Did she take it? Did she commit suicide? I doubt it. I doubt it. I really do. Is it an antidote to a poison she suspects will be used at the banquet? Who knows? Yeah, I keep reading this as the Notorious Big Nut, which is a better name, to be fair. Oh, shit, I need to go up here. What a great lore-friendly name. Avivi Kokoto. What a great name. Oh boy. I reckoned you'd head straight for the feast after meeting with Alianne. What's the matter? No appetite? That's not how a royal feast works. So she wasn't there, but this was, eh? Let's see. Looks to me like an alchemist vial, but beyond that, I can't say. Might be best if you hold on to it for safekeeping, though. I'm not holding the evidence on my body. Oh my god. Any road, no use worrying about Alianne. I'm sure she'll turn up before too long, and when she does, we'll soon find out what this was all in aid of. We're gonna find her dead. Besides, you've got more important things to think about. Oh, God. Please, just let me go. The parting, oh boy, I feel like the title, the image. The parting glass. Couple things. If it is like right here is a little glass that they're using to toast, and Alfino knows something that she does not. The look you give your enemy before you kill them. Who knows? Who knows? This is interesting. This is interesting. What we know probably at this point is that we will get to see this as part of the cutscene, which means that while we were gone, nothing necessarily happened. However, it could happen right at this time. This could be the moment right before the shit hits the fan. This is something I teach my students too. The title matters. If they give you an image or some kind of illustration, it matters. The cover of the book matters. All these things should be used to anticipate what might happen in the passage. And right now we're giving this for whatever chapter we're entering right now. So, you know what I should have done is I should have unlocked... I don't think I could have. I should have gotten another class to... It would have to have been 50. Never mind. I was going to say all this EXP I could have been getting, but it's 2,300, so who gives a shit. Would you believe that while you were away, another message arrived for you? Well, one did. One delivered by the Sultana's handmaiden, no less. Seems her grace desires a private audience. Her handmaiden will meet you on the royal promenade and escort you to the Sultana's chambers. So what are you waiting for? Go on then, go. Oh, Jesus. So many distractions. There we go. Okay. I'm worried about that glass. I'm worried about the handmaiden standing there.
You needn't trouble yourself so.
Oh, shit.
Your grace is most kind, but it is no trouble to me, rather an honor. If your grace is ready, I shall summon the warrior of light.
Is she going to be dead by poison by the handmaiden, but we have the empty vial on our body of the poison used to kill her, and we just got fucking duped? Oh, don't do it to me. Don't do it. This is the two things I didn't want to happen, potentially. I didn't want it to be death by poison, because that's too typical. I didn't want us to get blamed for it, because that always plays out the same way, and it's kind of low-hanging fruit. Fuck. God, it's all being set up for this. I don't see a way in which that doesn't happen. I'm angry.
I am.
That was a resigned I am. She knows what's going to happen, doesn't she? Does she know she's about to be poisoned? I don't think so. Oh, damn, dude. Oh, there's Papa Limo. Couldn't see him. It's too small. That's a lot of people to assassinate. A lot of Alamegans. I think. Maybe. Maybe not. The guys with the cuts in their hair, I think, are Alamegans, right? That's a It's a thing they do. Oh, there he is. Ah. That woman back there. Her, not her.
Everyone looks to be in high spirits.
Uh-oh. Ah. Oh, no.
With good cause.
A common victory may serve to unite even the most unlikely of allies. You've brought us one step closer to a united Eorzea.
Your modesty knows no bounds, Antecedent. Were it not for your efforts, Sir Emmerich would never have become such a steadfast ally. When he convinces his countrymen to rejoin the Alliance, we shall all reap the benefits, military and economic. I tell you, we are on the cusp of a new era of unity and prosperity. Territorial disputes are all that divide us now. But I have faith that we will find an amicable solution in time.
He's voiced like such a villain. Like, his vocal performance is so coded as a bad guy. You know, not to perform it, but like there's a tone to reading this as somebody who is pleased and optimistic and hopeful. There's a way to read this that sounds like, but I have faith that we will find an amicable solution in time. You know, it's that tone. It's that dragging minor tone at the end, you know. That reads like a villain. Like, he reads like a villain.
And failing that, I'll have my trusty warrior of light box the ears of all concerned. Speaking of whom...
He refers to me as his warrior of light. Can't stand him.
He will be joining us shortly. A matter at the quicksand required his attention, but it did not sound serious.
There was that image. Agrippina Helena. Nice name. Okay. Speak with the lady in waiting at the Royal Promenade. I hate it. I hate it. I'm waiting for the dominoes to start falling. Yeah, the gripper. We got the gripper. Arena's representative. Blech. There we go. Okay, back up to the Chamber of Rule. No, it's so itchy. Allergies are killing me today. We've had such good rain recently, but it always just screws with me. Okay. Oh. Hello, Quince. There we go. I should be bathed in speckles before we go in. Thank you for coming, sir. Her Grace is most eager to speak with you. If you require a moment to compose yourself before your audience, you may have it. Or, if you're ready, it would be my honor to escort you to Her Grace's chambers forthwith. Do I get a dialogue? Upon proceeding to the Sultana's bedchamber, several cutscenes will play in sequence. It is recommended that you set aside sufficient time to view these scenes in their entirety. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go refresh my drink. And I'm going to... Everyone, go take a break. Then once we get started, I'm not stopping. Okay? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Why is it not in emote mode? What happened here? There we go. Okay. Let's get witty. There we go. Okay. There we go. Silver got the last word. Okay. Shout out to Tacozilla Des. Alright, hold on. Last thing. Jesus. Fix up my drink. I'm doing a lemonade Mio. It's actually pretty good. Ah, okay, got it. Alright, good deal. I have a good feeling I know what's going to happen here, but gonna save it.
Enter.
Yeah. This is sometimes referred to as the Death March. It's a character that knows they're going to die, and they do nothing to prevent it, and they continue marching forward toward it. It's called the Death March.
Your Grace, your guest has arrived.
We can see her cup in every frame, by the way. It's always there.
Pray, come in and take your ease.
Keep seeing this woman walk around.
'Tis well that the steps of faith held against the horde.
And what of the city proper?
We sustained some few losses, but the heart of our nation yet beats with vigor. I am not certain I could say the same had we not received your most generous aid.
An attack on Ishgard is an attack on the realm. We stand together or fall divided.
Every frame.
Such noble words after the fact.
Look how resentful he is of everything.
I had hoped to speak in the presence of her grace, but it seems she has been delayed. That being the case, now would seem as good a time as any. Honored friends, pray allow me to convey Ishgard's warmest gratitude for your part in the defense of our lands. Tis upon the success of this very alliance that my recommendation to throw open the gates of judgment shall be founded. With the blessing of the Archbishop, it is my hope that Ishgard will soon be reunited with her long-estranged sister nations, and that Eorzea shall once more be as one.
Not clapping.
Very well.
Is aught amiss?
Nothing to worry about. I shall return anon.
He quietly leaves before the shit hits the fan. This one is a problem.
You wished a word, Yu Hase?
Please goblin him, please. Don't even let the potatoes speak. The cup is in every frame.
You may go. Your Grace.
The question is whether she knows she's just poisoned the Sultana.
You must be curious as to the reason for this private audience. The matter I would discuss, however, will soon make apparent the need for discretion.
God, we look good.
I intend to abdicate the throne and dissolve the monarchy. You have seen for yourself the storm of turmoil that howls through our streets. The government fails in its responsibilities, and my subjects suffer the consequences of our incompetence. But I will see them suffer no longer. The victory feast shall provide the stage on which I declare the dissolution of the Sultanate.
Couple directions here. If she dies before the decree is made, then her will gets buried in interpretation, which is something that can be taken by any of the players to meet their own ends. If she dissolves the Sultanate and then dies, it doesn't matter. So she has to die before she gives that message or during it, in which time everything gets thrown into chaos. I think she dies before being able to give that decree, and we become the only living person who knows her true will. But it's going to be our word versus anyone else's, and that becomes really complicated, so we'll see.
'Tis mine intent that the ruling class of our golden city should take its place beside the common man in a fair and equitable republic. No more shall this nation bow to the whims of a privileged few. Yet, that which I propose will entail the tearing up of this city's very foundations. And even Roban, with all his strength and influence, will be hard-pressed to keep his footing on such treacherous ground.
We're building up that arc I talked about where Roban ends up actually being the new leader, but he's going to have to fight for that position, not because he wants it, but because he's the only one that can stop the other bad leaders from taking that position. Sort of king of the hill mentality.
Thus would I ask you to lend him a steadying hand.
Because she won't be able to.
You who have endured the wrath of innumerable foes are the one hero in whom I can place my trust. Will you do this thing for me?
Of course.
I am truly grateful. More grateful than I can well express.
At this moment, she's willing to let go. In the sense that if she were hanging off a cliff and we were like grabbing her so she doesn't fall, at this moment, you know, there's always that moment where they're like, let me go, and then they let you go and then they fucking fall. But there's this sort of release of their grip on life that happens in the Death March. There's the moment at which they are all of their work is truly done. They are satisfied. They have no more loose threads. They have no more things that they have to do. She has passed on her legacy to us. She no longer has anything left to do. This is that moment. That's why she emphasizes, not even saying I'm grateful, the fact that she emphasizes it, more grateful than I can well express. This is the moment at which she is let go.
Much of my dread for the coming days has been quieted.
Exactly. She looks to the cup full of poison. We get the close-up full shot. This is dramatic irony where we know what's going to happen, but the characters do not. She drinks of it. She knows. But we do not. Until it's too late. Sixth Sense. I love when they do that. Oh, what a good use of the Sixth Sense. How complicated did this become, though? And of course, we're holding the poison vial in our hands. Well, in our pocket, but still. And then they burst in right there. It's a ledgy out of fucking ledgy.
Your Grace!
Not Raban. Yeah, she knows.
Her Grace, the Sultana, is dead. Poison in her wine? You did this!
Spare us your denials. I see no other suspects, and the room has but the one entrance.
This is the way that I think they're really doing this well, is that Teleji Adeleji is supposed to look like the bad guy. But if you read this, if you suspend your disbelief for a second and you read this as he is just shocked and overreacting, that simple. Where it's not him, it's his handmaiden, not his dick, but it's the handmaiden who was in the doorway that poisoned her. There's an avenue in which it goes around him and then exits. It's not him, it's someone from under him going around him and then doing this. Which is what I think is happening here. As much as I meme about Teleji Adeleji being not the bad guy, I genuinely believe he's not. What we're seeing is they have to tell two stories. They have to put him in the position of bad guy without having him actually himself doing any of the bad stuff, so that we can realistically believe he's the villain. Of course he walks in and sees this, and of course he's making these wild accusations, but he could just be mistaken. He could just be looking for a culprit. It's not that he's throwing blame at us. It's that he himself, in his emotional state and his surprise, does not see another option than we who were sitting there with her alone. His reasoning is not wrong, but it doesn't cover every case. And the one case he doesn't see is the one he's been blind to this whole time, where Lolo Rito is using him as a scapegoat in order to enact his own will. That's ultimately what I think is happening here. So as much as I meme about Teleji Adeleji being the good guy, I think that's what the writers are planning for, is that we think Teleji Adeleji is the bad guy, but I don't think he is.
I hereby accuse you of regicide. Men, arrest this viper.
Every one of them, except for the Sultana, every single potato is red as a goblin. You can't be mad at me. That face. We go peacefully because we've not done anything wrong. Yeah. They did great there with the animation sequence, given what I've seen so far. They did great with her dying animation. It was framed very well. Ah, he wasn't in on it. That's what I figured was going to happen, yeah.
Sir, barring a few exceptions, we have detained all those with allegiance to the Scions. The Rising Stones is also under our control.
Yeah, where's Ilbird? He needs to walk in and give us his, like, smug monologue. It was all of them. It wasn't some of them, it was all of them, and I think she found out about it and died. She was the second vulnerability there.
And what do you hope to achieve with this mutiny?
He is of the Monitorists of Ul'dah. We knew that about him from the start. He has political agendas within Ul'dah. We knew that.
Why, that which we have striven for all along, Commander. The salvation of Eorzea.
He's Smug little face. Fuck you, dude. Perhaps Ilberd is not actually evil. It's possible. Because he wasn't there. Interesting that Raban is still here.
What is the meaning of this?
Knights from the homeland. This cannot bode well.
Lord Commander, we have received an urgent message from the Holy See. I am grieved to report that your serpentine foes have resumed their assault. Needless to say, your presence is urgently required. These knights have come to bear you swiftly home to Ishgard.
Yeah, I have doubts about this.
A surprise attack?
We've had no such word from our men, and the timing is most fortuitous to catch us away from the city.
Oh, my girl, I love her. Yes.
Most fortuitous indeed.
Look at her.
Lord Commander, we must away.
You have been a most gracious host. I hope that I might one day return the favor.
What it means is I hope I can stab you.
Come, Lucia.
Does Teleji Adeleji know that that is fake? That's the question. That grin. There's a knowing look there. Okay, my whole hypothesis of Teleji Adeleji being a good boy is getting a little thin. Little thin. Of course, Thancred's just here to pick up babes.
Whatever is going on in there? Ah, the ever-dutiful brass blades. I must apologize, but my dance card is rather full. Another time, perhaps?
Thancred, of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. You stand accused of committing acts of espionage in service to the Garlean Empire.
Everyone's getting arrested.
Espionage? What in the seven hells are you talking about? Ah, if you're referring to that business with the Ultima weapon, then you must understand, I wasn't myself.
Hallelujah! Finally! Finally, it matters! I've been waiting this entire time for that little nugget of plot point to finally fucking matter. Finally! Went way too long. Went way too long with never being addressed. But still, I'm glad they're actually addressing it. I was going to be so mad if this just never came up again. I was going to be so fucking mad. I'm glad he's finally getting to use his little I got possessed card. And it's not going to work.
Under interrogation, an Imperial prisoner revealed your involvement in numerous dealings with the enemy. We've also been investigating reports that you are a practitioner of forbidden arts. You'd best come along with us.
You invite me to your party and now you want me to leave? I do so detest receiving mixed signals.
Now's not the time. This should be a serious moment, but he's fucking quipping. Stop. I just don't like that.
Come then. I believe I've lost my appetite for this farce of a celebration.
You go too far, Lord Adeleji. By what right do you march armed soldiers into a royal banquet and eject state visitors without her grace's consent?
Oh no.
You treat the brass blades as your personal army and show contempt for the throne with your every act. Leave us now.
The fact that Teleji did not lead with the Sultana is dead, that's a problem. I think Teleji is actually the bad guy. I so hope it's not, but it's really hard to feign ignorance at this point.
Is that an order, General? Mayhap you have mistaken me for one of your flames. You will find I am not so slavishly obedient. As you lecture me on personal armies.
Why is he not talking about the fact the Sultan is fucking dead?
As for your outrageous claim that I have shown contempt for the throne, let all here observe that it was not I who feasted while an assassin removed its occupant.
That's one way of saying it, I guess. No.
I expect this is your idea of defending the nation, is it? This and diluting our forces through these distractions in Cartano and Kurthus.
Wow. He's no reverence for what just happened. He's launching into the politics immediately, which I suppose, like, that's what he would do. But, man, the argument for him not being the bad guy, pretty thin right now.
I do begin to see how the ranks of the Immortal Flames came to be riddled with Garlean sympathizers. You are plainly unfit for command.
He's using the chaos to try and seize power. But that doesn't make him evil.
Wait, goddamn you. Your words make no sense. What assassin?
Me. 'Twas me.
You mean to say you don't know? We caught the vaunted champion of the Scions in her Grace's private chambers, not moments after the deed was done.
The fact that us going to her chamber was buried under a couple steps. Here's why this is really good at writing, because even the Scions will have doubts now. Because we were supposed to go to the sand bar. And then as far as they know, that's what we did. They don't know that we then got sent to the private chambers by request. They don't know that. So in this moment, all they know is that I went missing and now the Sultana's dead. That's all they know. So there is going to be an amount of doubt here. But they know it's going to be outside my character.
No! No, this cannot be!
Save your breath. You will need it to plead your case. You and your entire order are to be tried for this atrocity. Bring in the prisoner.
I'm not even going to get any of the bread. Like, fuck. I didn't even get to go here at all. Thought we looked good. Gilbert is in on it, after all.
This man stands accused of poisoning Her Royal Majesty Nanamo Ul Namo, and is suspected accessories to the crime. All members of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn will be detained for questioning.
And at this point, the suspicion is that, because the Scions are now seeing the Crystal Braves as problematic. What we're seeing now is they're going to think Alphino is also behind it. But Alphino is just woefully incompetent, as we have seen many times. Yeah. I didn't think he would be evil, so really this is the only route. Ilbert, who we've known to be a bad guy, and Yu Hase, who we've known to be a bad guy, they are now revealing their hand. And we're seeing everything so far play out kind of exactly as I expected it. There haven't been any big surprises. The only real kink, apart from Big Steppy, is that I really want there to be, like, it's going to be so fucking good if we find out that Lolo Rito is actually the bad guy in all of this, and that Teleji Adeleji is not. It's still possible, it's just thin. So we'll see.
This is madness!
What a pity. Who'd have thought your tale would end like this?
Should you demand further proof, a vial with traces of the substance used to poison her grace was found upon the assassin's person.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how involved Ileana was in the plot, or was her name simply used? Was she... Because if she was actually anxious as Momoda thought, then maybe she was deliberating in her head which direction to go with. Perhaps she got there, had regrets, and was killed by whoever was out there, I forget his name, when she wanted to go back on it, potentially. It's possible that she never went out there and she just made the story to Momodo to get me out there to get the vial, and the vial had just been placed there anyway. And that she was never out there at all. It's possible she's just waiting in the wings somewhere so that we don't have a confrontation with her yet. So I suspect she's dead. I suspect she's dead, and like Will read, she kind of figured out something was going on and she didn't know what to do about it, and she chose the side of virtue and died for it. Well, as you can see, it wasn't on my person.
How very convenient. You would speak of convenience? Who persuaded Her Grace to host this celebration? A diversion which presented you and your confederates ample opportunity to commit the crime, and a crowd within which to fade from view. A more convenient occasion I could scarcely imagine.
How dare you! After all we have done for Uldar!
That's not a good... Oh, boy.
Hold your tongue, witch! I'll not be ensorcelled! I know all about the dark gift that you and your disciples wield.
Interesting that he is bringing up witchcraft. There are a number of responses he could have had there that might have been more politically savvy, but it's interesting he's going down this rhetorical line that is all about forbidden magics. I think he's setting himself up to be the one ally of Ishgard in that way. I think the Ishgardians are going to respond to this accusation a lot more fervently than anyone else. Everyone else may be like, oh, that's a little spooky, or maybe that is a little weird that they're able to do that. Maybe I don't trust that amount of power, you know, those sort of things. But the Ishgardians are almost certainly going to see that as heresy itself, which is a big capital H word for them that is going to throw our relations way under the bus. All of this is happening when the known Ishgardians are not here to see it play out. But what we saw is that they left with suspicion. So they are immediately going to cast into doubt whatever this appears to be, which is good. That's our in. We're going to need that later. We'll see what happens then.
Oh, yes. I've observed how you worked upon the minds of the Alliance leaders, bending them to your will.
False accusations of witchcraft are interesting in the sense that if they were manipulated into believing something, they themselves can't really testify against that fact, because any testimony would be taken as from a person who is being manipulated. So you can't trust the testimony even of them. What he's doing is actually usurping the authority of all of the other statesmen, state leaders, Merlvid and the others, who matter a lot less than she does. So what's interesting is that he is debasing their ability to testify, undermining their authority in this situation. He has also done the same by making Alphino disappear and making it look like Alphino is in the right, even though he is a victim. What's really interesting to me is that this is all lining up perfectly for Teleji Adeleji to be revealing himself as the bad guy, the de facto bad guy. But I'm still holding on to hope that he's not. Because all of this behavior could still be genuine in that he's just wrong. Possibly. We'll see.
And what of your cordial relationship with Sir Emmerich? For years, Ishgard abjured all contact with the outside world, and now the Lord Commander of the Temple Knights treats you with the familiarity of a childhood friend.
I mean, there's no reason that he couldn't see... Because, I mean, we have become fast friends with all of these powerful people. There's no reason for us to say there's no way someone could look at this and go, must be witchcraft. There's no possible way for us to be able to fully discount that in good faith. He could just be dumb.
I'll tell you what I think. I think this desperate defense of Ishgard was but a ruse to deceive us into dividing our forces.
I mean, that face doesn't help, though. That smug expression doesn't help. And not that he's dumb. I wanna retract that. He's not dumb. I think that he himself is not seeing the bigger picture, so that his character can be put in the forefront as probably the person organizing this, but I just don't think he is.
Your next move will be to charm your Kurthan allies into invading our lands.
I'm curious where he's getting this line of accusation from.
Now that is truly ridiculous.
Papalibo!
How do you even think of this stuff?
He's a politician. That's what he does.
She cannot be dead.
Yeah. I hate that she dies, man. I mean, it had to happen, but still.
Stand aside, Ilbert. I want to see the Sultana.
This is a test of authority. This is a very important moment right here. Ilbert is going to try and stop him, but Raubahn has to make a decision. If Raubahn himself cannot get to the Sultana, it means that the Crystal Braves and Teleji Adeleji are really in charge. And that is an important moment, because whoever appears to have the authority will often seize it and control it when the shit really hits the fan with the public. Because everyone will have an opinion about what they think happened, but whoever appears to be in charge will likely remain in charge. So this is an important moment for us to see how this might play out. A break is about to happen, no matter what, one way or the other. And I think Ilbert comes out on top because that's more dramatic.
Spare yourself the pain, brother. I saw her with my own eyes.
This is the personal betrayal that happens here, because this isn't a political moment. This is a personal moment.
For a mercy, the poison took her swiftly. Her handmaiden can attest to that.
She's the one who delivered it.
This cannot be.
He's worried more about her as a friend than anything else. He doesn't care about the political ramifications. It's not his MO.
Nanamo. No!
Symbolically bowing low. He's abdicated. Doesn't comfort. Sees him laid low and leaves.
Plainly, the royalists can no longer be relied upon to keep our nation safe. And so it falls to the monitorists of the Syndicate to govern Uldar. But should you wish to help us, General, we would be more than happy to entrust the task of planning Her Grace's funeral to you.
So he's seeing this as an oligarchy power grab, where she wanted to put in a true democracy that would favor Raubahn here, actually, in a pretty big way. Teleji Adeleji is not going to necessarily win hearts and minds, but he will win with money. So it's definitely going to be to his advantage to put the monitorists in power, because it's a game he knows he can play and probably win. He's got better chances than trying to appeal to the masses who generally hate rich people with 100% reason. It's interesting, though, because still I think that his political value of the monetarist agenda still gives him reason to be saying this without necessarily being involved in the plot. I'm just saying.
It seems only right that you should bury your precious Sultana, and we will be glad to be rid of that burden.
I mean, like I've said, he's an asshole, but that doesn't make him involved in this plot. There's a difference. He doesn't have to be a good guy to not be involved in the plot. The rage. Ah.
I'll bet you will. You more than any man.
Don't reveal your hand. Don't do it.
Whatever do you mean?
Don't do it! Oh, Raubahn, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Eat bread. Shut your mouth. Oh, Jesus. Whatever. He's about to say something that is going to make it very difficult for us to fix this. Don't accuse him.
You had her killed, you black-hearted bastard!
No. No.
What rot! Though I did have sufficient motive, 'tis true. That young lady caused me no end of grief.
He looked like he had a stroke when he was talking with a smirk.
She always was a most unwilling puppet. I dare say her grace was grateful that someone thought to cut her strings.
Not wrong. Invoke and provoking him to violence.
Then mock her from hell!
Oh, shit! Oh, did not see that. Raban went too far. Oh, no. Because it's not him. Now we know it's not him.
Have you lost your mind, General? It is forbidden to draw steel in the royal chambers, much less slaughter our fellow syndicate members. You're one of them. You've been in league with the Scions all along.
You're next, you scheming bastard!
Does he get away with it?
Oh, Raban!
Stop there. Okay. We have had no body horror. We have not seen some of the elements being revealed here in the writing. There is a scope of what is allowed and what is not allowed in a narrative. Things in young adult fiction, you don't expect characters to be killed brutally, violently. Maybe the main villain in a finale, maybe. We have seen a shocking amount of violence in this last moment. It is abnormal, which is why I did not see it coming. It is abnormal. What I suspected to happen was that Teleji Adeleji would be seen as, for the writer, for the reader, would be seen as the bad guy, and then would leave. And it was clear that he was being provoked. I thought at most he would accuse him and make a vow to do something about it and leave. Maybe swing at him. I did not see the execution of Teleji Adeleji. What's interesting to me is immediately who else? Lola Rito shows up. The reason I know now there's no way Teleji Adeleji is behind it is because he's dead. There has to be a moment of true gloating. We still have room to have something revealed. Where we think we have an answer, I don't think we really have an answer here. I almost expected, and we knew someone was going to defend Lola Rito, but here's why I definitely think Lola Rito is the bad guy. Nobody defended him except for Ilberd, who we know is evil. Ilberd did not defend Teleji Adeleji. He did defend who I think is paying him, Lola Rito. Just how we're seeing this play out. A very interesting set of moves by the writers. They have definitely, I would say it's a successful subversion of expectations and pulled off very well. And the reason it subverts the expectation is that we have not seen that level of violence, especially with Raban losing his arm. That is not a small thing to do to a character. I don't know if he's left-handed or not, but he lost his left arm there. It's very interesting to me because we haven't seen gore. We haven't seen body horror. We haven't seen amputations, decapitations. That is brand new. So it wasn't, to me, on the table of something that the writer has in their tool set to do, which is part of what makes this such a good climax, is that we should see new heights. We should see new levels of things happening. We don't want to stay within the bounds that we've been so far, and they're doing very well to introduce us to new stakes. We now know people can lose arms, people can lose legs. We now know that good characters can now do bad things. We haven't seen that so far. Good characters have done good things unless they were possessed, unless they were forced, something else. We have not seen a good character consciously decide to do a bad thing. This is the first time. So we're seeing a lot of firsts here, which is good. That's what we want to see in something that's climactic. As soon as Teleji started poking more, I had an idea that Raban would do some kind of retaliation. I did not see him going as far as to kill Teleji Adeleji, but the fact that Teleji is dead and Lolorito is alive is very telling of who's actually in charge here.
7 hells!
Admiral, we must leave.
She wants to see it through. She wants answers. She doesn't want to flee, but she understands that everyone is, everyone's in danger here. Executing?
Like you, old friend. I did not expect to take your arm so easily.
Does he get executed here? Do we lose Raban as well? I mean, it's hard. Listen, whenever you have... It's hard for Raban now to come back. Two things. He's lost his arm. What use would he be? It's cold, but it's the truth. Secondly, narratively, he has committed a massive sin. He has taken someone's life, and that man was innocent. An asshole, but innocent. They have every right. Everything has been set up now. All the dominoes have fallen. All the pieces have fallen exactly as Lolorito wanted. The Scions are implicated in the death of the Sultana, which was also a goal. Raban has been removed, which I thought maybe he was going to end up, there was going to be a longer drawn out antagonism between the two, and there still could be. He's still alive. There's always hope for redemption if they're alive. Or vengeance. All those things are still on the table as long as he's alive. He may end up getting killed here because Ilbert is standing over him, sword drawn. Raban's head is low. It's a position of execution, so I would not be surprised to find that the sword falls on him. What's interesting to me here is that everything is lining up for... Okay, people who have played tabletop games with me know that I love starting the players off in jail or somehow running from the law, because it's a way for them to start with empty bags. They don't know anything. They're in a brand new land. It really cleanly sets up a new plot line, because it gives us a lot to fix. It's a lot that we have to address immediately. We can hit the ground running. This sets up Heavensward very nicely, because either what's happening here gets resolved, or, like we said, we're laying out new threads to get hooked into later. The fact that the Emmerich is gone now and suspects something has happened but doesn't know what it is, we know that in Heavensward we have to go talk to him at some point. But we know we're going to make it through because we're the protagonist. If they made me re-roll a new character now, I would uninstall the game. So we know that that's not going to happen, right? Nobody else is safe, though. Nobody else is safe. But this is a moment, this is what's going to bring Alfino low. Because on his watch, it's not just that this all happened under his nose. All of this happened because of his negligence. Ilbert was able to take over the Crystal Braves because Alfino is a failed leader. He's blind. His own ambition, his own pride blinds him to the reality around him. And even when confronted with the fact that there's likely some kind of trouble afoot, he ignored it. He fucking ignored it. Look what's happened. If the Crystal Braves had not been here, this plot would have been very difficult to negotiate. They needed a sort of third or fourth party, in this case like a fourth party player, to come in with military might and some authority and some recognition that they can play as arbiters of truth. The guys who are going to set this right. That's what they are, but they are no better than mercenaries. They're no better than mercenaries. We've known that they would be involved in this plot, but not to what extent, not at what time. Here we're seeing it play out. Very interesting. They're owned by Lolo Rito and might have been the entire time. It's an interesting question. The people who saw this coming have ended up dead. Alphino, I think Alphino has to live because we can't see him brought low. We haven't seen him really brought low yet. He hasn't realized what's happening here. We need a fallout between him and Menphilia. I think what needs to happen now is that Menphilia, in becoming a leader, is going to do it by stepping on Alphino's head and then becoming very tall. I think that's what needs to happen narratively at this point. But now it's clear that he's a super enemy. This is not a friendly thing. This is now all-out war. Does Raubahn have the presence of mind to put the pieces together? I think Raubahn has to be executed here. I don't see a pathway for him that is satisfying. And that's usually how you pick what path is going to happen at this point. What do you think is going to happen? It's almost always going to come down to what would be the most satisfying for the reader. That's what we most want to see. I think Raubahn has to be executed, or he has to be exiled somehow. Maybe it's the fact that he's an old friend that he lets him live. But even that, I think, is calculated. It may be a miscalculation, but I think if he lets him live, it's Ilbert's choice, and Ilbert's doing it under the guise of being an old friend. But it's actually there to keep Raubahn as a boogeyman, so to speak. He knows.
Take the Scions into custody. They have conspired to commit regicide. And arrest this traitor as well.
Yeah. Yep. We knew it was going to happen. The Crystal Braves are going to be used against the Scions somehow.
Ilbert, I hope you choke on their coin.
He did put it together.
'Tis better than the dirt I've supped on these long years. We can't all abandon Alamigo and become great war heroes as you have.
Yeah, there's some resentment there.
You are not the man you once were, Raubahn. Since that girl strapped the yoke around your neck, you've become docile. She took the mad bull and cut off his balls, and a bull that cannot rot is fit for naught but slaughter.
He'll want to go with her. He'll welcome death. Yeah. Yep. Close up on the sword there.
Shall I tell you who really killed your precious Sultana?
That's an interesting choice as a writer. That's interesting. He's going to lie to him to make it as painful as possible before executing him. He's going to make Raubahn wish for death here. That's what he's going to do. It was me.
It was me.
Yeah. But that may be a lie. It may still be a lie. It's going to be sad or enraged. It's both. Which one wins?
You.
Rage.
You die!
But he's ultimately defeated. Ilbert knows this. This can all be played off as Raubah's rage. Not for what it really is. Yeah, the deciding blow. Interesting.
I never doubted you, not for a moment.
Of course.
But there is more to this than I yet understand.
Yeah.
Flee this place. Clear your names.
Yep. He's going to sacrifice himself to give us a chance. I was curious how we were going to get out of this. Somebody has to hold the door.
Find out who is behind this plot. It is the only way. Now go!
That's his death wish. Ilbert will win, but he may be wounded in the process. I wouldn't be surprised. Meanwhile, all my friends in Wed Clan are just standing out here like, what the fuck is going on?
There you are.
No, fuck off then, Cred.
Thancred, where have you been?
Avoiding the fumbling advances of some very persistent admirers.
Every time he opens his mouth, he fucking ruins the tone. Every time.
When I realized the celebrations had turned sour, it seemed prudent to slip away and take stock of the situation.
Every fucking time he opens his mouth, he completely ruins the tone. He's making jokes and giggling about stuff and trying to be cute. Fuck off, please.
'Twould appear that much of the city is already under tight guard. It occurs to me that expanding the Brass Blade's authority may not have been such a wonderful idea after all.
The success of this plan was contingent upon those thugs having the run of the place. Just how long has this scheme been in motion?
The careful preparations, the maneuvering of forces. I am inclined to agree with the General's insistence that a deeper plot exists here.
So, would I be right in thinking we now have an excuse to pummel as many brass blades as we like?
Leandri?
Unless you plan on pummeling them all, I'm not sure that will greatly aid our cause.
The Sultana's assassination was but one part of the scheme. We too were its targets. And though we did not share poor Nanamo's fate, we are yet hobbled by the charges laid at our door. Where now might we seek refuge?
Where indeed, we may safely assume that our foe is thought to have the rising stones watched.
So are we having to move again?
Forgive me for stating the obvious, but our choice of destination will matter little if we cannot secure an escape route out of Ul'dah.
I was about to ask, is this a place to have this conversation?
Happily, I believe I can provide one. Papa Shan once told me about the passages hidden in the walls of the palace.
Of course.
If I recall correctly, the fireplace in Animo's chambers conceals the entrance to a tunnel.
Which also opens up, we have what was called, we had before what was called the locked door murder mystery. This is our locked room mystery, where the death happens in a room that is said to be locked. You know, the question is not how did the murder happen, it's how did the murder get in there. That ultimately is the key. What's interesting is that Thancred happens to know about this mysterious side passage, because of course he does. That is not foreshadowed at all. This is Deus Ex Machina. We have to have some kind of escape route that doesn't take us to all of the other guards, which is why I was thinking about how we're going to get out of here. Logistically, we have to walk. You know, we're going to have to pass by areas where now the Brass Blades are expecting us to go. So either we're going to have to fight our way out of the city or some other way of getting out, sneaking out. Some valiant jump onto an airship waiting on the other side of a balcony, maybe, you know, thought ran through my head. I did not think, oh, there's a hidden passage in the Sultana's chambers that, coincidentally, now that I think about it, could have been used as part of her assassination plot. Why I didn't know anything about that? This is why I hate Deus Ex Machina. This kind of thing needed to be laid out in advance. What's really interesting to me now is where do Tataru and Philomene come in? I'm wondering if they're going to walk up to Ul'dah being like, I hope they got us a lot of extra bread, and I want some extra wine, too. I hope they brought us leftovers, and then they get fucking arrested. Like, who knows? We'll see.
It should lead outside the city and allow us to avoid any messy confrontations.
Yeah. Good time to go would have been 5 minutes ago. Yida, what?
The rest of you go on ahead.
No!
I'll handle this lot.
I know she's bloodthirsty, but still, this is not right. You just run. Just fucking run. Okay, this is a trope that I always have a problem with. Somebody fucking volunteers to sacrifice themselves to buy other people time. No, you go. I'll wait here, and then when they arrive, I'll fight them and then die, but I'll have bought you some time. When you can just fucking run. Just run. You're far enough ahead that you can make it just fine. Just go. Just fucking go. If any of them are going to make it out, all of you are going to make it out, or you all fight whoever's chasing you together and you fucking kill them. 1 versus 12 doesn't buy that much time. Logistically, this is a mess. I'm not a fan of this.
By yourself?
Oh no! The only way to make it worse is if like more people decide to stay back. If I'm the only motherfucker who walks out of Ul'dah, I'm gonna be so upset. If everyone else stays behind to sacrifice themselves, I'm gonna be so fucking sad. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. It's been so good so far. Come on, come on.
I suppose I shall just have to join you.
Ah! Now they do it as well. 'Cause I'm not going to let you throw your life away alone.
Too, huh? Now this should be interesting.
Ida, Papalimo!
Oh. Why didn't you just do that from the other side of the gate?
We will hold our pursuers here. Hurry, now. Find this tunnel of Thancred's.
The gate will hold them back. Go to the other side of the gate, then drop it. If this was possible the whole time, why didn't you do it? Why are you volunteering to throw yourself away? I knew that these two, listen, before we even went in here, we said, these two are probably the most likely to die if any of the Scions are. I didn't expect them to fucking throw themselves to the wolves. This is not good. This is not good. Very few instances of not good writing. This is one of them. And to do it in a climax, you know better. Ah. It's possible we get another round where it's going to be now Thancred and Y'shtola then stop to buy us time, and maybe Menphelia then decides to stop and give me the chance to get out. Oh, Jesus. Question is whether they survive now, because they don't have to die. I mean, they're setting it up to die, but they don't have to die. Oh, great lighting. Look at that. The fucker himself. You know they're evil when they're comfortable walking in the dark. She wasn't in on it. Or was she? I figured we'd get a little bit more information there. Oh! Oh. Oh, shit!
Now look what you've done.
She wears the mask, but she goes through the effort of putting her eyeshadow on. I can't believe this woman. Fucking bonk.
Ida, are you all right? There are just too many of them.
Well, all of them would have been stopped by a single gate, Papalimo. Didn't think that through, did ya?
I'm fine. I could do this all day. How about you?
I mean, this is where we are, without any doubt, committing crimes, right? Like we could have just avoided all of this. This makes us look guilty, the fact that we stay behind and do this. I'm so angry, I'm ripping my headphones out. I'm not satisfied by this.
Nearing the end of my tether.
Almost out of MP.
This is so stupid. We're the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. The ones who stand between this realm and the evil that's trying to destroy it.
Papalimo goes boop, 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 gone.
And if you think we'll leave the stewardship of Eorzea to the likes of your masters, then you're sorely mistaken.
Sorry I dragged you into this, Papalimo.
'Tis hardly the first time, and I'll be damned if it will be the last.
Hopefully that's foreshadowing that they make it out of this, but it's looking dicey. Ah! Tetra Flare. Tetra Flare.
Ada.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Tetra flare. The question is whether that's their final hurrah. It's feeling like it is. Not satisfying. I'll be very unhappy if they die there. They didn't die on camera, so they're probably still alive.
I never knew such a watercourse existed beneath Uldar.
The architecture is of the Sildine style, if I'm not mistaken. The ancients plainly foresaw the need for a ready means of escape.
Alternatively, it's a sewer, but probably not. Not so secret tunnel after all.
This way!
Well, that didn't take long. It seems these tunnels were not as secret as I'd hoped.
You two, go on ahead. Thancred and I will deal with this.
I'll be back. I hate, sometimes I hate being right, because, fuck. There are a few good ways to have handled this, that I think, I wish they had done. The purposeless self-sacrifice trope is so frustrating. It's so frustrating because we might be losing to potentially great characters who have been so woefully underdeveloped so far that losing them now doesn't even really have much of an emotional payoff because we haven't invested in them. We're not invested in Papalimo and Ida, apart from the fact that they've just kind of been here this whole time, you know? Apart from that, you know, if Urianger disappeared tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, that's sad, okay. Moving on. As a reader, obviously it's sad to lose any life, but like, throwing it away for no reason. The moment he dropped that gate, I kind of disconnected. Because he revealed that he had every opportunity, every possibility of kind of just solving the problem right there, but he chose to do the worst possible combination of events. Go on the wrong side of the gate, drop the gate so he has no way of escape, and then die for no reason. frustrating. Frustrating. Well, I got a little bit of bread so I can at least have something to enjoy a while. You're still in Thancred potentially throw their lives away. I don't think they're dead. But it's still frustrating that they're building up the possibility of them dying. It either happens and it's super unsatisfying because of the nature in which it happened, or it doesn't happen, in which case it didn't matter. So in either case, it's either didn't matter or we don't care. And whenever your writing leads to those two options, you need to back the fuck up and make some changes.
What do you mean to do?
Make Mico roll his eyes.
Only that which is required to ensure that the dawn's light survive to brighten the morrow.
Your solo's not dying in a fucking sewer. Come on.
Fear not, antecedent. You haven't seen the last of these fair features.
If anyone needs to die, it's fucking you.
My friends.
Leave us!
And now in her grief, she's gonna volunteer to stay behind finally to get us out.
What
Just
is the
keep
plan,
running.
milady? Shall I take the dozen on the left and you the dozen on the right? The odds are not exactly stacked in our favor.
Wait, stop running. Wait, stop running. I hate it so much.
Numbers will count for little when I bring the tunnel down upon their heads. Though I cannot say I relish the thought of being entombed with you for all eternity.
If you can, if she's being serious, I doubt she is, but at the same time, I'm not. Just bring the fucking tunnel down and keep moving. Bring the gate down. Run. Bring the tunnel. Run. It's not fucking hard, dude.
You wound me. I will have you know that many a maid would kill for the chance to spend forever at my side. Now, may
I've never
I
seen
have
them.
the last dance?
This got soured so quickly. God, it was so good, and now it's every annoying trope in a row. If she brings that tunnel down, I will have no heart left. They're really playing with lighting. I like what they're doing.
Well, this is going splendidly. Now would be a good time, milady!
Tis done.
Am I about to be disappointed?
Forgive me, Mitra.
Don't do that. Don't send out actual death flags. Oh no.
Farewell, Ophelia.
They better not be dead.
Heidelin, she speaks to me.
Oh boy.
No.
Uh-oh.
I must remain behind, but you cannot stay with me. Please, you must go on. You are the warrior of light. You are hope for the Scions and for all the realm. As long as your flame continues to burn, the light of the dawn may ever be relit. You must escape and save Eorzea from those who would plunge it into darkness. Tis the only way.
She's gonna say something like, "I'm coming, Brida." I understand it makes a lot of sense for the Scions to be dissolved here. What does not make any sense to me is the way in which they've chosen to do it here. They had so many better opportunities. But again, we're not seeing them die. The chance of a triumphant return is entirely possible. I'm stuck with this little asshole. What is that Ali say?
I am glad to see you safe, my friend. What of the others?
He is responsible for all of this. I mean, Lolorito is responsible for all of this. But this little fucker right here was the exact mechanism by which all of it was able to go off. All that just happened is on his hands. No, 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 it's you!
Taleji played me for a fool. I thought the Crystal Brave's mine till the very moment I felt the blade at my back.
Zero sympathy. Zero. None. You're not a victim here.
There will be ample time for soul searching later. For now, we must put some arms between us and Ul'dah.
Unless this cart can fly, I'm not getting on it.
Well, would you look who it is? Need a ride? I doubt it'll be half as exciting as the last trip we took. Not if I have anything to say about it anyway.
I love that this has come full circle. We're going to be on a cart going into a new land.
Let's not dawdle, eh? All aboard!
Yeah, I'm not happy. However, I love this child.
I was stocking up on supplies over in Vesper Bay, you see, when your sister come up and begged a favor. Said her brother was having some trouble down in Ul'dah and likely needed a helping hand getting away.
Remember when I said if you have to backwrite your Deus Ex Machina, that's not good writing. The fact that he shows up out of nowhere, but he has an excuse, that's not good.
Thinking them ruins would make a fine hiding place, I decided to try there first. And lo and behold, there you were.
Dumb luck. Because we didn't plan this out, dumb luck. We just needed them to get on a cart, we don't care how.
Aye, and judging by them soldiers as we're pouring out of the city, I arrived not a moment too soon. Must have been fate that we happened to find you there, though, eh?
I had thought to look out for Alize. but would appear she was the one watching over me. I've made such a mess of things.
I don't know if he understands how much of a mess he's made of things. I don't know if it's hit him yet.
And who might you be, young sir?
I've seen this child before.
Pippin Taropin, Vice Marshal of the Immortal Flames.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
I had been on the Alamegan front these past few moons, but an urgent communication called me back to Uldar. Scarce had my boots touched the cobbles, though, when the streets erupted with cries of assassination. I immediately went in search of answers, and came across Master Alfino here. Needless to say, I did not think his imprisonment justified. The blame plainly lies with the Monitarists. Their greed and corruption are well known to me, but for them to take advantage of the situation with such alacrity...
Was that Pippin, you said? Ain't that the name of General Aldin's lad?
Yes, I am his son. Adopted, of course. 'Twas only as we were leaving Uldar that I learned of father's fate. Once I have seen you a safe distance away, I mean to return to the city and extricate him from this madness.
Then you needn't travel no further than Blackbrush. Our fugitives have a friend waiting for them there.
I dreamed of bringing about Eorzea's salvation, but in the end, 'twas I who needed saving.
He still doesn't get it, you know? Which I don't expect him to get it right now. He's in shock. He's still the turmoil of everything that's happened. Oh, damn. The soldiers that keep searching for a while yet. Reckon we'll take the carriage back towards Uldar and get the lay of the land. Maybe provide a distraction if need be. Don't get yourself killed, too. You three wait here. I'll be along shortly. Stay strong, friends. The real fight's to come. All right, let's go. Like, I get that we needed to get rid of... I get that we needed to get rid of the Scions in order to set the slate clean moving into the next expansion. I get that. What I don't like is the method by which they did it. Here are my problems, which I have stated before they even happened. We had several characters sacrifice themselves needlessly. And there are only two possible outcomes here. A, they died, and that was incredibly unsatisfying because it was completely unnecessary. B, they didn't die, in which case all of the drawing out that we did of them looking like they were going to die was purposeless and is actually a death is cheap trope, which, as I've said before, is one of the worst sins in writing as far as I'm concerned. When a character dies, it needs to be meaningful, it needs to be permanent. Otherwise, all of its value is gone. When you cheat death, that's one thing, but it needs to be an elaborate setup and then conclusion. It cannot be, I'm going to throw myself into the mouth of a lion and be like, oh, he bit me. You can't do that. Nobody gives a shit. If you see it coming, it's not surprising, and if the only reason that would have been interesting is if we had been shocked by it, then it is not good writing. The moment we left the banquet hall, the writing fell off a fucking cliff. We stood in the middle of the hallway for no reason to talk to Thancred, who completely ruined the tone. We then had the first completely unnecessary self-sacrifice. And then we had a completely unnecessary self-sacrifice after the secret tunnel we took turned out to not be secret. Go figure. The Deus Ex Machina secret tunnel was a Deus Ex Machina, and then on top of it was not secret at all, so it didn't even work. And then we have another self-sacrifice that was completely unnecessary, and then we have another one that's completely unnecessary that it itself didn't even really have a reason to do, except the Hydaelyn said, "Hey girl, kill yourself." And she's like, "No." Oh well. And she does it anyway. Like, come the fuck on. Every single point of that story after leaving the banquet hall was complete shit. And I hate being like that. I hate disparaging writers' efforts. But every decision the writers made there, I think, was made in mistake. It's like they had a goal, but they could not think of a good way to make it happen. There are two causes for this. One, you have written a situation, a premise. The premise of your story is one in which there really probably isn't a way out for the characters. Realistically, there's probably not a lot of chances that we actually make it out of that alive. And that's understandable if the sacrifices were meaningful and necessary to actually buy us time. But volunteering to die for no real reason is not valid. It's not valid. Here's how I would fix that. Here's how I would fix that. The moment we leave the chamber rule, we run. We're fucking running. We're going. We're in pursuit. We go. We get to the chamber where she died. We have a touching moment of everyone seeing her body, where we've seen it already because we were there. Everyone else sees her body, or maybe it's been removed. We see the cup on the floor. There's a moment to reflect on how badly everything has gone. But only a couple of us are doing this because everyone else is getting fucking furniture to put in front of the door to bar it to buy us time. It did not cost anybody sacrificing themselves to do it. We can buy ourselves time without dying. We can also have a wonderful, touching moment for us to sense the gravity of our situation. And then, as we go to the secret passage, they eventually get through the door and find the room empty, and they're like, But then somebody who also knows the existence of that secret passage opens it and says they went through here. We have bought time. We have got some lead on them. We also had a wonderful moment of dialogue. But we also didn't have to kill anybody to do it. Now we're in the tunnels, and we're down there. We've got a sizable lead, and the only way we know they're following is that us with the big ears catch them. We hear them coming. We could also see their lights behind us. Couple great things to do is, as was established, she could bring the tunnel down. I don't think it's hyperbole. I think we showed that she could actually do it. But to their credit, she couldn't do it from range. That might have been a valid moment for a character to say, I'm going to get you out of here. And the only real way for them to do it, because at that point it's just a test of who is faster, the pursuers or the fleeing people. One of them is faster. So we're either just going to get away because we're faster, or they're going to catch us because they're faster. That's what it comes down to. If you want to buy time, do that. Set a diversion, run down multiple pathways, loop back on yourself, whatever you need to do to lose their tail. They don't have to necessarily be slower than you. That you can also send them in the wrong direction, which is another option they didn't really have in the tunnel, which is just going forward. So maybe have Y'shtola bring the tunnel down upon herself while you run to make safe distance, and then they have no way of pursuing. We all get out, and then we're all crying about Y'shtola dying because it was necessary, it was valid, we know it's permanent because she's fucking turned into paste, and it was truly meaningful. And it's a character that we've had an opportunity to really get to know, to value, and she's probably the most powerful of the Scions. And in terms of just raw usefulness, she's one of the smartest. We've had a good amount of time to be able to work with her and her intelligence. She's also probably the most materially powerful out of all of them. Maybe she and Papalymo work together to bring the thing down. Maybe. But that's the only way in which I could see a really valid method of killing one of the Scions in order to buy time. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. But every possible good choice they could have made, they chose the opposite. And that's why it's so frustrating, because it didn't have to be underwhelming. It didn't have to be that. I mean, I've laid out what I would have done there. I still don't even think you had to kill anybody. Why not get out and then, like, Papalymo can take out some of the supports there at the end of the tunnel, which is already partially collapsing, and collapse it all the way. with their combined magic, they don't have anything that could do that. I mean, let's just think about the realistic toolbox they have available to them and the logistics of the situation they're in. There's no reason they couldn't have done those things. And I think they would have been properly climactic. But when you're writing with a destination in mind, you don't really think about how to get there necessarily. I mean, I write the opposite way, and I think a lot of good writing comes from the opposite direction. We have to look at the premise, and then what's the natural conclusion? How does this naturally play out? The natural play out is that it's going to be very hard to get out of here, but it's not impossible. Raoban gives us an out from that room, and now everyone else has to manufacture their own route from that point. If during the conversation where it was just us and the Sultana, if during that conversation she looked at the fireplace and said, I wish I could escape, but there's no chance for me to go now. You know, something like that, or looks to the fireplace and says, I wish I could make a quick exit. You know, so it sounds like a throwaway line, but the camera pans over to it. She zooms in on the fireplace. Great foreshadowing that we're going to see, oh yeah, no, that fireplace did look suspicious. I'm not surprised now that we're going to go use it. Even if Thancred comes up and be like, well, my buddy told me one time about the fireplace passage. You're like, you could easily just be like, yeah, no, we've seen that too. Now there's a consensus. Definitely we should go try that, right? That's valid. That's much better than what we saw. I hate to disparage writers because I think we should celebrate any attempt of creativity. I think that we should honor the art that is being done, that as we analyze it, we can still say that the artistic choices that were made were maybe not the best ones to have made. And as a writer, as an analyst of the literature, I can look at that and go, I know how that could have been a much bigger payoff. Because I arrived at the same outlet, the same conclusion. In case B, where all of those guys, the rest of the Scions, actually survive, they didn't have to even pretend to sacrifice themselves, and it didn't really even do anything for the reader. Or case B, they all die. There are still other ways for that to happen. There are still other ways for everyone to have a need of sacrificing themselves or just being killed. Thancred getting shot, I was like, holy shit, they're just going to kill him. Nice. He's not going to make the choice to die. He's going to get shot down fighting valiantly, maybe. He doesn't necessarily buy any time, but like Raoban, he just says, this is my time. I'm going to go. I'm going to embrace it and go. But doing it because it's going to be something that slows the enemy down, I don't know. I could talk about it all day. I just kind of want to move on. I'm not satisfied at all. At all. I was really impressed by Raoban losing his arm. I really like the way that they set Adeleji up to be the bad guy, and then they fucking kill him before we ever get to see resolution on it, because I was also sitting here wondering, like, how do we vindicate Adeleji, especially as he becomes much more of an asshole over the course of his dialogue? I'm like, I don't know if he's going to be... You know, because the one outcome in that case is, like, we end up working alongside him in order to undermine Lolorito. But once he's dead, and why I was so impressed by that is we haven't had a character being murdered like that on camera. Murdered like that. A good guy choosing to murder a guy like that we haven't seen. So that was a big climactic moment that it's not even that Teleji died. It's the opportunity for us to get that truth to the characters is gone. There is no more opportunity. When a character dies, and this is why it needs to be important. When a character dies, they can no more be developed. They cannot be redeemed. They are as they were when they died, and they will always be that way. That's why character death can be so gripping. Moonbreeda's death was that way. We wanted to see more of her. We never got to see more of her, and we knew we wanted because she was dying. We had to appreciate what we had been given. Right? We had to appreciate what we had been given. With a character that is yet to be redeemed, if they die before that redemption happens, that should be gutting, because we should see that loss of potential. But they have to be on that redemption arc first. If they're just a bad guy and they die, they're just a bad guy who died. But if they're a bad guy who says, no, I know I'm an asshole, but I'm not behind all this. I want to be vindicated as much as the rest of you, and I'm going to do what I can to make it happen. And then he dies. We never really get to see the truth for him. We never get to see that. We never get to see the completion of his arc, and that loss of potential is what can be emotional in those times. I just have to say I'm really disappointed with the way that that was structured. If we look at the structure separately, if we just look at, okay, let's accept that the way that that was written was not very effective to me. The way it was presented, I think, was done very well. They started playing with light. They did a lot of really interesting camera angles that I thought were fantastic. The fact that the cup was in almost every shot in which the Sultana was. That's one of those things where if you didn't see that she was going to get poisoned, if you didn't see that coming like I did, you look back at that scene again, you're like, oh, damn, yeah, all the signs were there. That's good foreshadowing. You pick up on it, great. If you don't pick up on it, that's also great. You get to see it the second time you watch it, which is part of the joy I think some of you might be getting in the fact that this is probably your second time seeing some of this stuff, and you may not have seen some of these bits of foreshadowing at the time, and you may not have really understood why that wasn't a satisfying climax there. There's still more, but at the same time, what we saw there should have been much more powerful. Should have been, and as I've shown, could have been. And that's the disappointment I have. That's my disappointment. I hate that I'm disappointed. I have a lot of hope going into the rest of this, that there's going to be more. I need to ask, though, that was one big cutscene, Bukake. Is there another long series of cutscenes like that? That I'm going to ask, like, Yiz, Rian, and the people screaming in chat, would now be a good time to let this down and save the rest for Saturday? Do we have about this much left on Saturday? Or is there, like, this is a third of what I've got to get through, and maybe we should continue and save the rest for Saturday? Verifying that with the Cowboys. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Because I do want to divide this over 2 nights. It is 10 o'clock. I've been doing this for about 4 hours now, which is not a problem. I could do it for 8. Like, I do this as easily as I breathe. Cowboys are saying stop now. Okay, I agree. This is a great stopping point. We've hit a great beat as we move into the next thing. I think Pippin is best boy. He may become my third husband. What a beautiful child. Alphino is still an asshole. He has to have a reckoning. Now is not the time, but soon he has to have a reckoning where he realizes the fact that he was taken advantage of does not make him a victim. It does make him a victim. Let's not take that away. He is a victim of that. However, his vulnerability to allowing himself to be taken advantage of in that way, which, I mean, there's no way to word this. This just doesn't sound like victim blaming, right? It's the same rhetoric that would be used for a victim of sexual assault, and that, so maybe it's not valid, but the fact that he was flaunting his abilities and that he was acting with such hubris, we knew he had to be laid low. It's happened. But he does not yet realize that he had every opportunity to stop this from happening. He had every opportunity to stop this from happening and took no action because of his pride, because of his naivete, because of any number of his other character flaws. He is at fault for having not prevented this from happening when he was in a position to do so. It's like, man, it's like if a cop sees someone getting murdered and it just fucking stands on the side, you know? They're to blame. They're as much to blame as the murderer because they are in a position to stop it in a willful choice or a position of such ignorance that it causes ignorant neglect that allows the thing to happen. That person is as much as culpable as anybody else. So I need Alphino to have that realization. I need him to then go on this arc of I don't even want to call it redemption because it's one of these things where trust has been lost. And can we ever trust him to be in a position of power again? What I am hoping happens is Menphilia is alive. I'm hoping they're all alive because I'm not going to be satisfied if they died there. Alexander Osias tosses Alphino into the river. Yeah, I hope they're alive because I feel like there's a lot of unresolved dialogue still. My problem is that I'm going to be mad if they lived. I'm going to be unconcerned if they die. There's no winning. They've written themselves into a corner from which there is no more winning move in my book. They have written themselves into a corner. No matter what they do at this point, it's going to be unsatisfying, and I'm not looking forward to it as a reader. I mean, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens. Did they live? Did they die? It doesn't fucking matter. Who cares? It's so sad. He's so sad. Anyway, hey, there's my analysis of that series of cutscenes. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's much more to talk about. We'll see. But we're going to pick that up on Saturday. I'll be doing the... God, what's it called again? I forgot what it's... I always forget what it's called. It's the yearly event, The Rising. Don't tell me. I'm going to be doing The Rising 2022 on Saturday, whatever that is. I have no idea what I'm looking at. Which I think is exciting, because I've been told that it's going to be good to do. The meat party, that's right. So Saturday we're going to do the Rising event, and then we're going to continue with the rest of this cutscene Bukake. Sunday, we are killing Bahamut. If we don't kill him synced, what we're going to do is at the end of the night, we're going to blast him down unsynced so that I can see the cutscenes, and then we move into Heavensward on Monday regardless. So Monday we'll be starting the Heavensward expansion, which I'm really excited about. So, and don't be afraid. If we do have to just blow Bahamut up so I can see the cutscenes, we will still continue to fight him synced. So we will have that we will beat that challenge. It will happen. But we're going to no longer delay the beginning of Heavensward behind it. So that's really good. Okay, I had a fantastic time with this tonight as sort of... as kind of disappointing as the finale to that series of cutscenes was, I feel like that's not really the end. It feels like a midpoint climax of this last little arc here. In any case, I think it's going to be more interesting on Saturday. I've got some time to sit and think about what we saw and kind of make some plans for what I think might be happening on Saturday. In any case, thanks for joining me tonight, and I'll see you then. Good night. I'm going to be angry about this until Saturday. I will be. I'm going to be upset about this until Saturday. And maybe longer, who knows? In any case, I'll see you then. Good night.